Hello, chat. What's up? You ready for some more Super Mario Odyssey hijinks? I sure am. Not tired at all. Anyways. The first video we have today is the Super Mario Odyssey retrospective from King K. Now, I'm not quite sure. I think I've seen this, but I don't remember the sentiment he was going for with it. So that'll be interesting. Anyways, I think we're just gonna jump right into it.
Super Mario Odyssey is the third collectathon Mario, and it came after 4 course clear games. Though it could be argued that Super Mario Galaxy borrows level design tropes from the collectathon, it often sees you following a linear path to your objective, even in more open-ended levels like Honey Hive or Beach Bowl. Galaxy 2 practically cemented this direction, while 3D Land and World marinated in it. 64 and Sunshine focused
Marinated in it. Yeah, the Galaxy games were more 2D than 3D, honestly. At least the objectives were, because you basically just go to the end. Now, Sunshine 2, to a certain degree, right? And honestly, Super Mario 64 is kind of like that too. The difference is that you have the kind of open worlds. And I think that's what a lot of people mean when they divide those two genres within the 3D Mario games. Anyways, so Odyssey, I think, is actually a step in a new direction almost.
on creating larger, more
Sunshine,
intricate sandboxes with
games.
multiple separate objectives. Sunshine could even be seen as inching closer to a course clear philosophy by limiting your shine choice. This isn't to say that the approach of Galaxy and other course clear games is one I dislike, just that there's a clear divide between the two that even Nintendo have acknowledged. For now, I'd like to put a little bow on top of this odd trilogy of Mario games that have always been more to my taste. Despite how harsh I may have been on 64 and Sunshine, and how harsh I'm likely about to be on Odyssey, it's also important to not let my praises go unsung. I really enjoy all 3 of these games, but I'm not convinced any one of them truly reaches my ideal Mario collectathon. Let's talk a bit about why that is. This is a Super Mario Odyssey retrospective. I am going to assume that you've watched my videos on 64 and Sunshine, but just in case you haven't, I'll give a very brief rundown on my thoughts overall. Super Mario 64 is an excellent transition to 3D, spearheading the collectathon genre with imaginative, dreamlike sandboxes that you could explore to your heart's content. It was largely weakened by an aging control scheme and camera. Though the DS remake, depending on who you are, might fix the controls and camera, it was still shackled by an even greater issue: the boot-out system, which punished you both for failure and success. While this doesn't seem to bother...
I don't know why so many people don't like the boot-out system. I mean, it does kind of serve its purpose, right? Just reload the level, and I guess it's handled. It's not handled the same in all the levels, right? Like in Jolly. No, that's Dire Docks. It's like you usually have to go down in the water through the tunnel and up to the other side. But even then, there still are stars in that first area that you can get. But it's like, I think it's a necessary evil. And it also makes you really familiar with the levels themselves. So, I don't know.
There are many other players. For me, it is their ever-present Achilles heel. It ruins entire levels for me in 64, and threatens to ruin the whole experience of Sunshine. Sunshine, though, has a stronger sense of immersion. They played on 64's ability to craft imaginative locations and took that to the next level. They made an entire island resort for Mario to hang out in, one that felt more or less authentic. Some of the objectives weren't as strong, but that didn't matter much in the moment. Exploring each level was a relaxing experience, and that remains its greatest strength. Just like
I think it's actually even more justified in Sunshine because of all the stuff that changes in between levels. I mean, at some point you could have some of the changes appear while you're in the level, but there's still something about that rethreading familiar ground and then seeing what's changed, which is also a little bit part of the philosophy with Odyssey.
64, however, it threatens to cannibalize its greatest strength with an unnecessarily linear and restrictive progression structure. Paired with the ever-frustrating boot-out system, I can't say Sunshine necessarily succeeds where 64 fails. It just took those two extremes and amplified them. Higher highs and lower lows. It's no secret that I have a vendetta against the boot-out system, which is why I'd like to start by saying that one of Odyssey's greatest strengths is that it removed that system in its entirety. Collecting a Power Moon, this game's equivalent to the Power Star or Shine Sprite, will cause a flashy animation where Mario and his partner Cappy jump up into the air to the tune of a catchy jingle. After which, you can go back to exploring the level. This seemingly simple change means the world to me. Exploring has a renewed sense of flow to it since you aren't being thrown out every couple minutes. You can breathe in the New Donk City air, get lost in the trenches of Boblaine, find yourself stranded in the middle of nowhere. The possibilities are endless, as this is now a road trip. It marries the disconnected level theming of 64 and the connective tissue of Sunshine. How poetic. Each kingdom has a purpose. Bowser is traveling between them to steal a magical item or artifact for his wedding. You get that classic road trip vibe, but through realistic humans and forks with chef hats. The disconnected becomes connected, foregoing the drawbacks that come with either approach. I've always loved this idea that Mario constructs its universe in a completely nonsensical way. The Paper Mario games, especially the Thousand Year Door and Super Paper Mario, feature new species that often defy conventional logic. Flipside, which most people don't seem to like, is actually one of my favorite Mario locations. It follows the same bonkers ideology of Odyssey, a world full of weird block people. Doesn't get more Mario than that. Of course, that's not even to mention the entirety of Superstar Saga, which has a fully realized nation of bean people, but I think you get the point here.
Anyway.
I like when Mario crosses over into strange new lands, ones that don't only consist of traditional enemies. Maybe it falls too fast into a few stereotypes, snow levels, beach levels, etc., but even those stereotypes buck tradition in some way. When you first enter the Snow Kingdom, it's very traditional. You're thrown into the middle of a snowstorm. However, eventually you're dropped from this familiar setup into the decidedly unfamiliar Chiverian racetrack, with adorable round seal creatures. This amalgamation of Northern European and Russian cultures is a unique subversion of the traditional ice level. It's the same with the Desert Kingdom, which has hit a cold patch, or the Wooded Kingdom, which is a forest growing around a mechanical construction. With the exception of Boblaine, which really is just another beach level, each theme is distinct. Those are just the more generic ones. We've got kingdoms based around food.
Doesn't feel like he's giving Boblaine enough of a cap in the game, because that level is beautiful. Like, it's so good looking.
Top hats, dinosaurs, feudal Japan, you name it. Odyssey even manages to inherit that change over time you'd see in 64 and Sunshine, but this time without getting the boot. The Desert Kingdom starts out frozen over, and you have to solve that problem. which eventually leads to the dead rising at nightfall, which eventually leads to a restored desert. New Donk City begins with a boss fight, after which it sees you slowly restoring the city's power, put together a band, and take part in a fireworks festival. Sure, some of the triple moons take you back to the Odyssey, but this is very rare, and usually only to take you away from a dead end. Using your coins, you can buy special outfits for Mario to wear and better blend in with his environment. Scuba gear, swimsuit, poncho, caveman, chef, scientist, top hat polygons. Though they may be cosmetic, there's still an incentive to collect both regular and purple coins throughout the world. We've moved past the days of everything feeding back into a main collectible. You obtain something more for going out of your way to explore, a reward that fits with the theming and allows you to customize Mario in a never-before-seen way. Luigi might not be playable, but you run the full gambit of different Marios, and to me, that makes all the difference. 100 coin challenges have been moved to the secondary collectible, purple coins, which allow you to purchase costumes specific to the world you're in, as well as souvenirs to place in the Odyssey. It's a perfect way to tie it all back into that overarching theme. Collecting these coins is still just as fun, as they're often cleverly hidden. This time, though, you get a different reward for each coin milestone, instead of just more shine sprites, so going after them feels more consistently rewarding. The average world size is no joke. The Desert Kingdom and the Metro Kingdom are pretty huge for Mario standards, especially coming off the smaller world sizes of 64 and Sunshine. It makes exploring them for secrets even more fun, without crossing over into bloated open-world territory. New Donk City has something for you around every building, every city block, every back alley, every rooftop, everywhere. It's a dense metropolis where you can take advantage of that natural platforming I mentioned in my Sunshine video. This kingdom is the epitome of that concept, where you swing on light posts and wall jump in between buildings. You get classic Mario platforming, but this time you use it to find secrets and other collectibles. You have to climb the volcano in Luncheon Kingdom to fight the boss on top of a cauldron. The Wooded Kingdom sees you weaving in and out of a large mechanical structure. A majority of the secrets exist inside the grooves of said structure, hiding underneath cliff sides. Many of the sections where you're transported to a disconnected space are saved because they feel, well, connected. When you travel underground in the Desert Kingdom, you see the source of the colder weather, and find yourself in an expansive underground cave full of ancient ruins. New Donk City's underground is a hybrid between a sewer and a power plant, where the end objective is you turning on the city's power. Boblaine has a locked lighthouse that you can enter by swimming underground. You also do this in the Lake Kingdom to bypass a wall. Your immersion is rarely broken like it so often was in Sunshine, and it really complements the shorter length of these more contained sections. Once again, I coin Odyssey's sense of immersion as one of its greatest strengths, even if it is constructed with strange components. It's like I said in my Sunshine video, Mario does not have to be realistic to be immersive, it just needs that connective tissue to trap you for as long as it needs. It helps that exploring these worlds has been made more fun thanks to Mario's expanded moveset. Nothing against the games that happened in between, but Mario has never felt as fun to experiment with since Sunshine. I'm largely okay with it, as the controls for something like 3D World make sense for its more contained and simplistic level design, but that would not fly for a collectible. Bounding through levels with triple jumps and dives is a large part of why exploration feels so gratifying. I specifically love how invisible coins are hidden all over the place as a reward for your platforming ingenuity. I swear to you, if you see an alcove in a place you couldn't possibly get to by normal means, there will be something there as an acknowledgement. You might have to master the cap throw dive jump, as is the case under Toast Arena. Near the boss fight, there are several pillars on each side that look inaccessible. In any other game, there would be an invisible wall, or simply no way to get to those pillars. In Odyssey, though, not only can you reach the top of those pillars with a well-timed triple jump into a cap throw, there are coins up there waiting for you. As if that wasn't enough, there's an even harder jump to get on top of the entrance building. This one is even more insane from the outside looking in, and you might even doubt that it's possible to get up there. You have to stand on a very small platform and inch your way up the wall carvings. Eventually, you'll make it up and see a stash of coins. What this means is that it was always possible to get up there, and the game knew it. It rewarded you for thinking outside the box. It encouraged me to do all kinds of things in each level. If you think something might have a secret, 9 times out of 10, you'd be right. Under the brutal boss platform in Steam Gardens, there are incredibly narrow beams you can reach with a cap jump. If you walk towards the main platform, there will be lines of hidden coins. You can find them on top of the entrances to practically any location. Since coins serve an actual purpose in this game, it feels so satisfying to find them in the most unexpected places. On far-off platforms in this chain shot bouncing minigame room, on the windows of buildings in New Donk City, and even on the ramparts of Bowser's castle. Those large statues of Bowser on the pagodas, you can jump on those and find purple coins alongside other goodies. They actually figured you'd be curious enough to risk your life and explore something that most other games wouldn't even program collision for. Seriously, this is some out-of-bounds exploration, and no other collectathon I've played is quite that thorough with its secret placement. I was addicted to Odyssey my first couple playthroughs for all of these reasons and more. It was a cathartic, painless road trip. So, yay! Odyssey solved the problem, right? It cultivated the flowers and culled the weeds. There's no boot out system here to interrupt that beautiful feeling of immersion, and you're allowed to tackle any power moon you want. There also aren't any required power moons, save for a few boss fights. We're back to the 64 system. Collect an arbitrary amount of power moons to progress. You're given complete freedom to enact this road trip however you see fit. It's great. I love it. But it's not going to be that simple today. Odyssey eliminated my biggest problem with the previous games, and nearly perfected that feeling of immersion they were building toward. In that sense, it feels like the logical conclusion. Yet, collecting power moons somehow doesn't feel as exciting as stars or shine sprites before it. Even the worst missions in previous games felt satisfying to clear because your reward was a tangible collectible that got you closer to finishing the game. Cleaning eel teeth was a pretty big step toward the end, as was finding practically any star in 64. As such, the game placed priority on each of them. In Odyssey, that importance is dulled. There are so many moons in the game. So many, in fact, that important objectives have to give you 3 moons instead of 1. Defeating a boss feels about as exciting as a regular objective in previous games. Raiding New Donk City in the rain and clearing out an electric caterpillar is about as involved as riding the sandbird or defeating the wiggler. But then why would you do this if you could also get 3 power moons no problem by kicking a rock into a wall or sitting on a bench? Which isn't to say I don't enjoy power moons like bench friends. It's a cute secret for cheering up a man who just wants a bench friend. I'm fine with a few of these here and there. What bothers me is the sheer number of times Odyssey is content doing something like this and rewarding you with a power moon. Walking a dog, wearing a specific costume, planting a bean sprout from across a gigantic map and waiting for it to grow, trace walking, face matching, you get the picture. Each of those activities are repeated multiple times in different worlds. There are multiple dogs in multiple kingdoms, there are several instances where you have to find bean sprout seeds from across the map, you have to wear a specific costume in almost every single kingdom that just results in an instant moon. Sure, the first time you get a moon like this, it's cute, but the second, the third, the fourth, repetition digs deep into your soul and sucks the life out of some genuinely interesting worlds. Repetition and structure aren't inherently bad. There's a reason the 100 coin and 8 red coin challenges in previous games were repeated for every world. They were fun challenges that in most ways encouraged thorough exploration.
You're not getting these moons back to back, right? You're still exploring the level and going other places when in between. So it's like, I don't get this argument that just because there are a lot of one moon, it's somehow boring or it's bad. You don't even have to collect them. I think the reason there are so many moons of the same thing is because they figured that, hey, this is fun. Let's place a couple of more instances of this so people can actually get to experience it, instead of just having one idea here and then just not doing anything with it. Like, kind of like in the Galaxy games, but those were more linear based. So I understand why they did it, at least. is what I'm trying
the
to
level,
say.
pushing you closer to mastery. Having to carry one of 4 items across the map multiple times is not an activity worth repeating ad infinitum, and unfortunately there's no getting around that for me. It harkens back to less interesting challenges in Sunshine, like the Watermelon Escort mission. Moons can be so damn obvious sometimes, I'll accidentally run into them. Accidentally run into the main collectible. They're treated with the same importance as a coin as far as challenge level is concerned. On average, moons require more effort since many of them are locked behind specific challenge rooms or bosses, but that average is dragged down by the moons where you ground pound a shiny spot or kick a rock or buy it from the fucking store. A large majority of actual Kingdom content is made up of stuff like that, and it's a real shame since a lot of the other moons are fairly well placed. Boblaine has a lot of underwater exploration, made infinitely more fun using the capturable Cheep Cheeps. Exploring ravines like a submariner, combing the coral reefs to find all kinds of hidden stuff, is a fun new challenge for the player. It's probably some of the best underwater exploration in a collectathon that I've played, since the Cheep Cheep capture is so fun to toy around with, and the level geometry intentionally obscures secrets. It forces you to engage with the underwater labyrinth. Even above the water, you can capture the gushions for air exploration. You have to balance the vertical and horizontal gains you make with your decreasing water levels. It feels like a more overpowered and focused version of what Flood was. It's used to great effect when fighting the boss, where air positioning is key. Perhaps more fun, though, are the times where you have to get it somewhere farther away by soaking it in puddles that act as checkpoints. In this little ravine, there are several pools of water throughout that initially mean absolutely nothing. You get to the end of a decent spike ball challenge, grab a power moon, and get closer to fighting the boss. Unbeknownst to the player, however, Captain Toad is above that moon, and the way to get to it is by dragging a gushion all the way through the ravine and recharging him at those pools.
Exactly.
Surprisingly, it took me a long time to figure this out on my first playthrough, because gushions are far enough away that you probably wouldn't think to use one right off the bat. You have to see the pools and connect them with the Gushions' abilities in order to find Captain Toad and win yourself a well-hidden moon. These are definitely the best moons in Odyssey, where you have to drag a Cheep Cheep through a long underwater tunnel to avoid drowning, when you run a bullet bill in between the moving pillars and slide into a secret room, when you slip through the geometry of a level in a 2D section to find a hidden moon, when you fall in Steam Gardens and end up in a completely new location. It is so much more rewarding to find those secrets. Moons such as those will forever remain in my memory as some of the most interesting secrets in a Mario game, because they're well hidden. You have to think outside the box to obtain them. It's the same reason why I love hunting for blue coins. Many of them were really well hidden and genuine secrets to find. I enjoy using uproots to reach hidden nuts in hard to reach areas, or using Pokios to bounce my way across the sides of the walls. That's just what I like to do in these games. Odyssey is at its worst for me when that stuff isn't happening. And that isn't just a target on the back of the dog-walking filler moons. In fact, one of my biggest issues with Odyssey is its reliance on challenge rooms. Now, here's a brief background on me. I don't have a lot of experience with the course clear Mario titles. I frankly prefer collectathon Mario games and have just never played the classic titles. This is a large part of why 3D World has never resonated with me as strongly, since it is, by all accounts, a literal translation from 2D to 3D. It is course clear 3D Mario perfected. I can admit that I've been harsh on it over the years, perhaps unfairly. For a long time, I hated it for being something that I didn't want it to be, rather than simply being content with what it was. With the release of Odyssey and the acknowledgement that 3D Mario has two distinct styles, I can appreciate 3D World in a new context. It has some of the best level design in the entire series, that much is for certain. While it is a little easier than I'd like, it crams so many creative level themes into one package and paces them out really well. There are 1 or 2 central gimmicks for the level to play around with, several collectibles hidden to reward risky play, and the levels have a natural evolution from start to flagpole.
I really wish I liked
Super Mario Odyssey has a problem. It's billed as a collectathon, but maybe 40% of its content is clearly something you'd see in a course clear game, jumping across rotating platforms and buildings for about 5 seconds with an optional moon hidden somewhere along the way. Seriously, compare the substance of these rooms to any 3D World level. Here's a jumping floor panel level where it gets progressively more difficult as you go along. You have to deal with laser circles and other enemies along that path. New concepts are being thrown at you left and right. You have to keep your double cherry until the end of the level. A real pain in the ass if you're going for all the green stars. It's a creative level with 3 secret green stars to collect, one of which in its own puzzle room. I will always remember that level. I'll always remember the first time I was introduced to the double cherry and the subsequent levels in which it was used. I'll always remember the speed panels and the unique uses it had for the various levels that featured it. Super Mario Odyssey simply doesn't rival that creativity. Often you'll just be asked to navigate platforms through fog, or jump across poles, or jump through rotating geometry that looks like it came straight out of Sunshine, judging by how basic it feels. They don't last long at all, and though some of them offer a decent platforming challenge, they're so basic that it's hard to remember them. They're just another way to get moons that are completely divorced from the kingdoms themselves. It's almost like especially the ones you access using rockets. This is straight out of the Sunshine playbook. Simplistic levels that have nothing to do with anything, floating out in space, disrupting the flow of normal play. It's trying to have it both ways. Nintendo wanted to embrace their collectathon roots, but seemingly didn't understand what that meant. So we get a bunch of course clear challenges in what should be a collectathon, where you're immersed in colorful worlds and asked to explore them for secrets. Now, as I mentioned, there are several linear challenges I enjoy, which are often baked into the levels themselves. Inside the Pyramid is a good example. You've got to deal with bullet bills and 2D sections in an acceptable evolution until you escape the pyramid and fight a Brutal. It lasts long enough that you could consider it a level in something like 3D World without ruining your immersion. You're still in Toast Arena, and you don't end by capturing a rocket and leaving. You end on top of the pyramid, making more progress toward the main quest. It reminds me of jumping into the volcano or pyramid in Super Mario 64, sub-areas that have their own identity and exist within the world. Another thing 64 did was hide a few of those sub-areas, like the Tall Mountain Slide, making it more satisfying to find them. It also kept those sub-areas to a minimum. In fact, some worlds didn't even have them. Sunshine increased that counter, and Odyssey quadrupled it. Every world has an abundance of sub-areas through cap doors or rockets. Nearly all of them have nothing to do with anything, besides sharing a main capture or stage mechanic, like the Zippers in Lakeside, that could have been more effectively used within the kingdom itself. While they are an unnecessary distraction, I can mostly forgive them for at least being mechanically satisfying in most instances. Sunshine had this as well, for as immersion-breaking as its sub-areas were, it could at least rely on that mechanical challenge to get by. In Odyssey's case, many of them are slower paced and focused on either exploring one small room or solving a platforming puzzle. One of my favorites is where you have to guide these stone tanuki statues on top of P-switches and figure out how to get the extra collectible at the same time. You actually need to leave one of the statues at the beginning of the level and then do a cap throw dive across the empty space where the bridge used to be. Coming to that conclusion falls in line with the critical thought you put into the larger worlds. I also can't get enough of these 2D sections, which play with the level geometry in a genius way. Whether it wraps around the cylindrical wall, dots the seafloor, or wraps around a circle, it's always interesting to enter one of these 8-bit warp pipes and see what the game asks of you. Honestly, I think adding a lot more of these platforming challenges would have been better than the platforming-focused challenge rooms. The 2D sections are far shorter than the challenge rooms, still ask you to find a hidden moon in a well-placed hiding spot, and still exist within the kingdoms themselves. They already act as short distractions, so adding more of them in strange locations would have been welcome. Odyssey did not need these sub-areas, and they affect the pacing in a negative way overall. But to say it's the game's biggest problem would be overstating.
As it is now,
no, ironically, I believe that Odyssey's biggest problem is the exact same problem Sunshine in 64 had. It has horrible pacing. Except this time it goes the opposite way. 64 and Sunshine struggled with their pacing due specifically to their boot-out system. Odyssey struggles precisely because it doesn't have the boot-out system. After some engaging boss fights, a joyful ending sequence, and a cute ending cutscene, you find yourself in the Mushroom Kingdom. It's such a cool throwback to Super Mario 64. There's even a polygonal costume to run around in. Yet, except for a few Easter eggs like draining the moat, looking up the sun, etc., it's a surface-level callback. Jumping into paintings will see you fighting remixed versions of the same bosses. Challenge rooms consist of face matching and other useless Mario Party minigames. Nothing about the actual world calls back to Peach's castle in any meaningful way. It's just a method to shovel repeat content down your throat. But it doesn't end there. Throughout the game, you'll encounter moon rocks.
Okay, so
you can't do anything with them, and it really bugged me on my first playthrough. Turns out, therefore, the post-game. When you activate one, a bunch of new moons appear. And to put this charitably, they suck. Well, okay, they don't suck in a vacuum, but when considered within the context of the game itself, they're a really dumb concept. Are you ready to basically play the game a second time? To travel back to every world and do the exact same bonus rooms but with slight modifiers? Are you ready to walk more dogs, hit more vultures, pound more ground? I hope so, because that's all you'll be doing from now on. The exact same content as before, in slightly different locations with tiny distinctions and a few new moons and challenge rooms. About the best thing I could say is that the bonus rooms are often more challenging. But that really isn't saying much. It's the same thing Sunshine did with its sub-areas, where you were forced to come back with Flood and challenge rooms. About the best thing I could say is that the bonus rooms are often more challenging. But that really isn't saying much. It's the same thing Sunshine did with its sub-areas.
See, complaining about finishing the game or completing it? I'm a little confused, to be honest. Now, he's complaining about the post-game. I mean, he has a few good points. Because the post game in Odyssey, it's like the post game in the Galaxy games. It's not very good. It's just bordering on overindulgent. But like, I think the Mushroom Kingdom has a place in Odyssey, just for you to run around and have fun. The missed opportunity of Odyssey is having actual hard challenges as the post game, like on the in the level revisits, because they're not really hard when you've become fluent with controllers as you would when you played through the game.
Where you were forced to come back with Flood and complete the 8 red coin challenges. Except Sunshine has 120 shine sprites, whereas Odyssey has 880 unique moons. You can only collect around 350 of those on a first playthrough. They lock more than half the moon count behind the post-game. Hint art, which was actually one of my favorite parts of the Any%, now feels obnoxious because they throw like 20 of them at you all in one world. I really liked trying to make sense of these riddles and finding the moons associated with them, but at some point it felt like overkill. I was satisfied by the already existing hint art. There didn't need to be more of them to pad out the game. There didn't need to be achievements that you have to collect one by one. There didn't need to be purchasable moons. Look, I understand why the statement "this game has too much content" might not make any sense. How can a game possibly have too much content anyway, especially when most of it is optional? Here's the thing. In a collectathon, at least a good one, almost everything can be considered optional. Most of us still fully complete them because it's a satisfying feeling. They're built to be played multiple times. You can show off your mastery by completing them faster than ever before, flowing through each objective because you know where everything is and what you have to do. That's part of the reason why the boot out system became so repetitive, and why Odyssey flows so much better than the 2 games preceding it. However, its biggest downfall is ironically a problem those 2 games never had. 64 and Sunshine had a respectable main collectible count, even if Sunshine technically had less with the blue coin system. Nevertheless, I still fully complete those games when I revisit them, and it's a blast. I love blitzing through each world, doing everything there is to do, and then moving on to the next. I love hunting for blue coins, finding 100 coins. It's all so relaxing.
I still can't get over that.
Pacing-wise, you're always hanging out in each world.
I'd easily complete Sunshine and Super Mario 64, except I'd probably skip the 100 coins in 64 and the blue coins in Sunshine, just because it's nothing. It's just a bunch of nothing. Usually there's a good enough challenge in 64 where the game just asks you to find a lot of coins and not die doing it. And you need to be kind of familiar with the level. Like in Tall Mountains, you need to be aware of the coins in the slide and not to collect them last as you would normally. You just need to go up there, do the slide, and then collect the coins, or else you'll unlock the star on the slide and you'll most likely miss it. But in Sunshine has the 100 coins and the blue coins. And the 100 coins are super dependent on what shrine you choose at the start of the level. So at certain shrines, there's not even 100 coins in the level. It's really dumb. And I'll never fully complete Sunshine again, probably, because it's just that much of a hassle.
For just the right amount of time before moving on to the next. Finishing them 100% is intrinsically satisfying, even if not always extrinsically rewarding. Odyssey is definitely totally more extrinsically rewarding. You unlock additional kingdoms by collecting more moons, but it certainly isn't intrinsically rewarding. You can't have a satisfying 100% experience with Odyssey, because its moon count is already padded enough during the any percent. Pseudo-completing your first visit to each world is about as much work as fully completing 64 and Sunshine. But then the game just keeps...
It really isn't. I mean, the thing that Odyssey does so well is just show you where stuff is. Like, when you pop out of the pipe, the camera will kind of turn and it'll face a secret of some sort most of the time. And I really like that about the game. But it's like completing the post game worlds is just not even close to on the level of work that it would take to 100% either 64 or Sunshine. Not even close.
Going. You do the same challenges over and over again. You go back to the same worlds for seemingly no reason. You collect new moons that I can only describe using the word filler. You basically just play the game twice and then complete a hard platforming challenge. One that is paced way worse than the final challenge levels in the course clear games. Because again, your extrinsic reward for collecting a bunch of moons in a collectathon is a hard course clear challenge. It isn't a new world or a new move to make exploring worlds more satisfying or a new character to switch up your next playthrough. It's a remnant from a type of Mario game that this should not be trying to emulate. Why then does Odyssey feel the need to shove so much extraneous content into its runtime? I believe it's to account for the fact that the boot out system no longer exists. I really do think that's all there is to it. Do you truly...
What did he say?
Exploring worlds more satisfying or a new character to switch up your next playthrough. It's a remnant from a type of Mario game that this should world or a new move to make exploring worlds more satisfying or a new character to switch up your next playthrough. It's a remnant from a type of Mario game that this should not be trying to emulate. Why then does Odyssey feel the need to shove so much extraneous content into its runtime? I believe it's to account for the fact that the boot out system no longer exists. I really do think that's all there is to it. Do you truly believe Odyssey would still have this many moons if the boot out system still existed? Clearly there was a problem during development. A problem that likely said, this game will be full price, so it cannot be this short. This is yet another reason I despise the hours equals $ approach of this many moons trying to emulate. Why then does Odyssey feel the need to shove so much extraneous content into its runtime? I believe it's to account for the fact that the boot out system no longer exists. I really do think that's all there is to it. Do you truly believe Odyssey would still have this many moons if the boot out system still existed?
Well, obviously not, right? But like, if the boot out system was here, then it wouldn't make sense to make it this kind of game. What is he getting at?
Clearly there was a problem during development. A problem that likely...
Clearly there was a problem during development? What?
Said, this game will be full price, so it cannot be this short. This is...
No, you come on, you can't.
Is yet another reason I despise the hours equals $ approach, because it needlessly adds on top of games that can't handle that weight anymore. 64 and Sunshine
Do you really think that Nintendo listens to the dollars equals runtime thing that's on Twitter? I mean, there was a lot of stuff around this back when Odyssey launched. It was about the same time as Uncharted 4 came out, I think. Wasn't it? Maybe a bit after. But it's like story dependent games like that just people think are really short. And they were like, wow. And then there was games like Dark Souls and stuff that you could just play for hours and hours and hours, and other open world games. But it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like he's assuming that this is just, he's assuming that this is why, right? Without anything to back up the argument or something like that. I can't comment on a lot on what you said since I have completed Odyssey yet. You gotta let me know what your thoughts are on everything you said so far. Yeah, I mean, it has some, I guess we'll summarize it at the end of the video, but like this point right here is moronic. This is so dumb. I mean, Odyssey is already a pretty lengthy game when you combine all the moons from the first run through before you beat the game, right? I mean, it's taken me at least, I don't know, 10 hours at this point, even more than 10 hours, and I'm at the Seaside Kingdom, Bablaine, and that's like 3/4, I think. And it's like, it's such a dumb argument because it has nothing to do with overall runtime. The game is literally designed so that you don't have to get all the moons. You can if you want to, of course, but it's going to be a bit repetitive, like he's saying. But like, it's designed so that everyone will get to, at some point, try out all the different challenges, kind of. It's not designed as a 100% completion game. It's just not. I've always believed that it's not about the length of the game, but rather the execution of said length. Yes, exactly. I think so too. Like the Uncharted games are a great example of that. They're awesome games, and they don't overstay their welcome, mostly.
Added out their runtimes to such a degree that we were essentially forced to remember everything. Especially in Sunshine, where you had to do every shine sprite in order no matter what. That's why the most memorable moons in Odyssey are the ones that reward you with triple moons, because those are not concerned at all with free level exploration. Often free level exploration had to be facilitated through 64's miscellaneous challenges or Sunshine's blue coins. Since the boot out system already existed, it padded out the runtime by quite a bit, ballooning those games' average runtimes. If you took out the extraneous moons in Odyssey, which I consider almost 60% of its moons, you would end up with a game that lasts at most 7 or 8 hours, which for the gamers of today is apparently not good enough. Odyssey couldn't afford to just do what the other Mario games did, justify that runtime by making a game that's replayable. Since this game is on the Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo are seemingly obsessed with designing games around a hardware philosophy now, Odyssey necessitated an amount of moons that could be obtained in short bursts and last people dozens and dozens of hours. What we ended up with is a game that is fun in very, very short bursts and nothing else. Thus, Odyssey has an identity.
100% do not agree. Odyssey is fun in long stretches of time. There's a lot of variety within the levels. Like, unless you're doing 3 kingdoms, like back to back, they're you're not gonna encounter very much repetition. Sure, there are the moons that's they're kind of out and about or buried where you have to ground pound, but like, come on, dude.
Crisis. For example, one of the defining traits of a collectathon is the hub world. Often you're allowed to explore for new levels, select them out of order, and experiment with your new moveset. Peach's Castle and Isle Delfino did this really well. Super Mario Odyssey doesn't have a hub world, which feels so unbefitting of the subgenre it's attempting to emulate. I understand that this is a globe-trotting road trip adventure story and that its progression structure would make a hub world harder to implement, but it already lets you pick between kingdoms at very...
In my opinion, that sounds way too harsh. Yeah, it does.
Various points reminiscent of the progression structure in 64 in Sunshine. To not have a hub world diminishes the impact of the souvenir.
If you're not having fun in certain levels, you can just go to the next one. It takes literally no time to collect enough moons to move on. I don't know, there's nothing saying that you have to stay in one place all the time, right?
You collect. Imagine if the Odyssey itself was larger, maybe even the size of the Comet Observatory. You'd get to see it fill up with little trinkets as
Comet
the game goes on.
Observatory is the worst hub world in any 3D Mario game, and you can't prove me wrong on that.
And maybe you could even collect residents of the other kingdoms along the way. More importantly, being able to explore it for some bonus secrets and pick your next kingdom based on your moon count likely would have helped Odyssey feel a little more natural. As it stands, each kingdom really pushes you toward that triple moon, and by the time you collect it, you'll already be set to leave.
Honestly, in a way, Odyssey is still kind of reminiscent of that, the 2D based gameplay where you just have to run through a level. It's kind of reminiscent of it still. But like, even more so than in the Galaxy games, really. Because in the Galaxy games, you have the freedom of choosing which worlds you want to do. But then when you go to the actual stars, or the levels themselves, it's very linear. And you can't find, or you can find some stars out of order, or rather, there are some hidden stars. But you can choose which level you want to do and just skip over the ones you don't want to do. In Odyssey, it's not that simple. You have a certain path you need to take level-wise, like it's one after the other, and you can't go back to a different level and collect moons to skip the next level. You have to collect moons in the current level to get access to the next level. So in a way, it's still very much 2D inspired. I'm actually going to write that down. That was a good thought. Odyssey is still very much 2D influenced. Maybe even more so than the Galaxy games when it comes to the course select. See, this is why I watch these videos. They give me good ideas.
Having nothing to do in between can quickly make this structure repetitive. All I'm asking for here is a system similar to the one in Galaxy 2. The hub for that game isn't extraordinary, but at least you could explore it every once in a while. The real kicker is that the Galaxy games really didn't even need a hub world.
I'm all for calm, collective, constructive criticisms, but there is a difference being fairly critical and harsh. Yeah.
Because they were course-clear Mario games that would benefit.
It just seems I get what he's trying to say, but it seems he's under the wrong impressions about the game.
From a level select. Odyssey, the actual collectathon, doesn't have one for whatever reason. Working on a new hub world would have been far more lucrative time investment than padding the game into oblivion. Hell, it would have been a better time investment.
He understands that this isn't... Having a hub world like this would go against the main theme of the game, which is traveling and discovering. It's not exploration, it's literally traveling across the world.
That making any of the challenge rooms. I don't know why priority was given to a world like Bablaine, and then seemingly no work went into the far more interesting Ruined Kingdom. I don't even know why Lakeside...
Like, knowing Nintendo, that's probably because they didn't have any ideas that could fit into the kingdom.
Lakeside and Boblaine are separate entities. It seems like a decision made only to buff up the kingdom count. Actually, if they were to have made Lakeside a secret area in Boblaine, it would have made for a better overall kingdom. But instead, we're stuck with two decent kingdoms forcibly ripped apart, and a few kingdoms that can barely even be considered kingdoms, since you only fight bosses. Seriously, why are they called the Cloud Kingdom or the Ruined Kingdom? They are literally boss platforms, which again is something you would find in 3D World. Think about how much impact a Bowser fight would have had in a fully fleshed out Cloud Kingdom world, or fuck, even just a platforming challenge like in 64. Without that build-up, it's literally just a place to fight Bowser.
And see, this is why you want to read articles, especially pre-launch articles, so that you can catch on to the reason they did this, which is that the story is the literal last thing they implement into the Mario games. So they probably already had all the kingdoms ready, and then they noticed that, hey, we need some boss battles, or we need some spaces for Bowser to shine. So they just created these quick arenas specifically for huge boss fights. So but there is a thought behind it. It's just not very obvious unless you read the pre-launch interviews.
A goddamn moon rock there, as if to imply this place can still be considered a full kingdom, everyone. Don't worry, you'll get your money's worth. Don't worry. The Ruined Kingdom hurts the most. I see so much potential here. And the boss fight is one of the best in the game, both for how out of place and...
It's really cool artistically. I don't think they could have done very much with the Ruined Kingdom any more than they could have done with the other kingdoms, but it looks really cool, and it's very sad that they didn't develop it more.
Mechanically satisfying it is. In a game that's already pretty bonkers, this is the kind of strange that crosses over into the macabre. I could see the Ruined Kingdom as an analog for the ghost houses in past Mario titles, a drab, gothic nightmare with booze and other new scary creatures. Again, it would have been a better addition than fucking Boblaine, but we seemingly needed to fulfill our bog standard level quota here.
I do agree about the Ruined Kingdom to a degree, yeah.
I know Bonneton is kinda what I just described, but that kingdom is really damn disappointing. It's literally just a tutorial world with one room in it. It's a little more substantial than the boss kingdoms. And that sucks because this is the first spark of life in a series that has needed it for so terribly long. Don't get me wrong, I love the creativity in Odyssey, but it feels like only a half step towards something greater. Once again, there's a game I need to bring up. One of my favorite games of all time to this very day. Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. I know, it's a weird... This is a game that was presumably full price when it came out, has 10 worlds to explore, and can be beaten 100% in about 4 or 5 hours at most. I can imagine that it could have extended that runtime by quite a lot had it opted for the boot-out system similar to the Mario games, and that's the reason it has remained one of my favorite games to replay. I can go back to Toy Story 2 any day of the week and just complete it. It's decently fun to explore each world and complete the objectives. There's no reliance on subrooms at all. Every single challenge is contained within the worlds themselves. Andy's room manages to feel expansive because each of the challenges are hidden in the various rooms of his house, and you're asked to comb all of it to collect everything. It lends itself well to natural platforming since you're a toy exploring a house. Bookshelves, boxes, even furniture are fun to jump around on since they're built into the environment. There's a certain repetition to the structure for sure. Collect 5 unique MacGuffins, collect 50 coins, defeat a boss, play a minigame, and find a secret token. It's incredibly simple, but that doesn't hamper the level design. Each world is about the size of a world from 64, maybe a bit smaller. There's about as much to do, and it doesn't need to shove a bunch of filler into it all. I can't imagine Toy Story 2 being any different than it is and still being
Question, which game is your favorite to complete? Of the Mario games, you mean?
Fun. Because despite how easy it can sometimes be, or how repetitive the structure is, or how simple the boss fights are, none of its elements
Okay, so it heavily depends. What do you mean by complete? If it's 100% or just, get to the end? Any game. Majora's Mask. No question. Majora's Mask is the best game ever made. Simple as that. And it feels meaningful. Everything you do in the game feels meaningful.
Extraneous. It is so fun to master.
It's awesome.
It's so fun to play again and again. It's so fun to engage with it on all of its terms. It isn't padded in any way I can conceive, even if that means it had to be a much shorter game than any of the Mario collectathons. When I go back to play Odyssey, I am forced to do it any percent, which is admittedly fun at some points. I am forced to collect whatever I see in each world, move on to the next, fight a few bosses, and beat the game.
I've been told I need to play that. I haven't played any of them.
Sure, for some, maybe that's all.
I even have Psychonauts 1 in my Steam library, but I haven't touched it yet. Someday.
Hey, I know a few people who don't fully complete 64 or Sunshine or Banjo-Kazooie or basically any collectathon ever. That any percent playthrough is still really fun and unique. A far cry from the generic aesthetics we were used to seeing in Mario games for such a long time, and unmarred by the boot-out system that robbed those earlier titles of their much-needed fluidity. Unique worlds, new characters, and a free range of movement that is insanely satisfying to play around with. A bright, memorable soundtrack, a new horizon. I'll always be happy that this game experimented, that it rose above the generic, that it dabbled in weird vocal tracks, that it is a standout, memorable Mario platformer above all else. I just wish I could end my playthroughs and feel as content as I do when I finish something like Toy Story 2. Unfortunately, despite all the issues it fixed, I don't believe Odyssey even fully understands what it is. For as cheerful and fun as it appears on the surface, further playthroughs have only revealed more cracks in that exterior. If the game doesn't even understand what it wants to be, where does that leave the player? It's a bittersweet end to the current trilogy of Mario collectathons. 3 games that have some goddamn high potential. Out of all the collectathons I've played, the 3D Mario titles are not necessarily my favorites, but they've always pained me for having elements that are so close to being brilliant. As the series has moved forward, it's gotten better, worse, and more confused. I'm not sure what the future holds, but if we ever do see another collectathon out of the Italian Plumber, I really hope it's just a game that commits to what it wants to be, unconstrained by any outside pressures, a game that doesn't have to pad itself out to justify a price tag, a game that is just allowed to be. Odyssey, flawed as it might be, is a truly remarkable game in terms of its presentation. It felt like the first new Mario game after years and years of sterile, boring, predictable visuals, story beats, characters, and level design. Odyssey stands in the face of that stagnant past, paving the way to a more hopeful future. I really hope Nintendo keep finding ways to push the plumber to new heights. I'll always be waiting for them to make a collectathon truly worthy.
Let me think. The first that came to mind was Banjo-Kazooie. I'm gonna be slaughtered for having that opinion. I don't know, it's so hard to say that anything is overrated. Because it feels like it's kind of a term that's just thrown out there without anything being actually overrated. It's just the base sentiment that from the vocal minority is that it's good. For me, it would be Sly 2 to an extent, and Spyro 2. Yeah, the Sly games also, I really liked 3. Maybe, actually, Sly 1 I'm not too fond of. Or Ty, the Tasmanian Tiger one, not too fond of. But I'm not sure if those are as universally acclaimed as I think they are. Which is why it's so hard to say that something's overrated, because, you know.
Of the Mario name.
I can't believe
Gonna start.
Alright, that's King K's Super Mario Odyssey retrospective. Chat, what do we think? To summarize this, he falls into the same trap as Joseph Anderson did in his video, where he says that there are so many moons that are filler because there's so many of the same moons being placed at multiple points in the game. And it's true, there are a lot of repeat moons that you come across throughout the playthrough. But, and that's a big but, you're not doing those moons back to back. You're doing other stuff in between. And this helps with them not feeling like they're superfluous, or that they're boring, or that it's just filler moons, as he called it. Because basically what Joseph Anderson did was he counted all the moons and then put them in a list. Like, these moons you get from ground pounding the ground. These moons you get from doing certain minigames and so on. And when you have a list like that, it's really easy to see how repetitive, or it's easy to... Yeah, it's very easy to think that they're super repetitive. But in reality, you're guided around in the game in a way that you're not really doing any of the same moon twice in a row. and that's a part I like about Odyssey, because they're really good at that. Even though I haven't 100%ed Odyssey yet, I do agree with some of his points, but not in a harsh way. Yeah, I mean, he does have some good points. He does. He really does. And then it's the post game. Hey, Birdie, what's up? Surprise stream? No, not really. I scheduled it, so it should have it should have been in the sub box for like the past 2 days. But yeah, sure, surprise. And what was the other thing he said? Yeah. The claim, like, this is just an outlandish claim that they added the extra moons to pad the game, to have it be longer in like hours played. It just fucking, that blew my mind. Like, how can someone just assume that? I mean, and it brings up the Twitter drama with the, oh my god, I can't believe this game cost $60 and you can only play it for 15 hours. It's just so fucking dumb. It's like, ugh. Because the post game, and like, he should have, in that case, he should have brought up that point in Galaxy 2 too, right? Because that's basically the same. You have double the moons in post, or well, another 120 moons in post game. But I don't think he did. So this is obviously something Nintendo has been doing all along. I do agree with him though. The post game moons are not that great. They should have been more challenging. I'm finishing my thesis today, so pretty good, because I have to think about other stuff than life without procrastinating. Yeah, that sucks. Or, well, that's good, depending on how you look at it, I guess. Anyways, I think King K has some good points. I also think he has some really weird opinions about why they decided to add so many moons post game. But that's just me. Oh, hey, look, that's me. Oh, with horrible grammar, too. Okay, so this is kind of what I thought. This is a great time capsule, dude. This is kind of what I thought about the game when I first finished it. It is definitely that bigger isn't always better, but I'm 100% sure that Odyssey falls under that or not, yeah. Did you enjoy his tangent about lying? What was the first world? Oh, you mean Joseph Anderson? Yeah, that was fun. That kind of drove me insane because it's like, it's not a good joke and it went on for far too long. I mean, oh, Jesus Christ. This is King K's video, by the way. Oh, like I was saying, this is a fun time capsule because this is my literal thoughts about the game when I first played it. If anything, Super Mario Odyssey made me realize that I like the Galaxy series better than the Collectathons. Odyssey feels inconsequential. It's weird to say it, but there's just way too many moons to make them feel like valuable collectibles. Something I used to think. Now I think that the moons themselves aren't the reward, but how you find them is the reward. The most fun I had in the game were the initial missions in each of the kingdoms. In my opinion, Mario always feels the best when the game leads you to where the designers want you to go. Little did I know that Odyssey actually does that in a very subtle but very smart way. Your retrospective feels like the quintessential. You can't please everyone. Anyways, yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say about this video. Like I said, good ideas. I even got a lot out of this video, honestly. And then some very weird opinions that just doesn't make sense. Still love Super Mario Odyssey though. Yeah. I mean, it's not the best 3D Mario, but I'm not sure it's the worst either. Anyways, that was that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna watch another one by a oof. Oh, okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Why can't I, Okay, I'm just gonna do that.
So moving on here, just...
That. We're gonna go watch one from a smaller YouTuber.
So moving on here, just going across these, it's...
Also, why is this in whatever, we'll unwind this. Yeah, it's showing on stream. Now we flexing that Hi-Fi Rush is better than Starfield. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy that it actually sits at a higher Metacritic score than Starfield. I'm not sure that's still the case, but it was this morning, and oh boy, I laughed my ass off when that happened. Anyways, so I'm gonna do something I've always wanted to do. I'm gonna put in a ad while I go to the bathroom for like 2 minutes. So yeah, be right back. Ad. back? I hope so. I mean, I don't know why I even bothered with that. I probably made like 2 cents with that ad. You can spontaneously put ads midstream? Yeah, you can. While I haven't played all 3D Super Mario games, you could make the argument that there are no bad 3D Super Mario games, just that some are weaker than others. Yeah, I don't think they're bad. None of them are bad. It's just Sunshine is really weak. It's so weird to actually like Sunshine better than Odyssey. Especially considering all the BS shrines and the blue coins. Okay, so next video on the list is Super Mario Odyssey, Not So Timeless 4 Years Later, retrospective video essay and review. That's a lot of words for a 23-minute video, but alright. This is from Platformer Game Design. This is a relatively small channel, as you can probably see right here, though the video has been seen a bunch of times, so... but it's still only 2 years old. Or only, it's still 2 years old, so I don't know. Probably more than a lot of my videos that are 2 years old. More views, that is. I can definitely say Mario 64 for DS is bad. What? No Waluigi? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Anyways, moving on here, just going across honestly. These, it's important, we gotta maintain the height here, and there's no other way to get up to these. Anyway, this one's kind of tough, but... Ooh, alright, we're good, we made it up. Okay, so yeah, you can't bounce on your cat more than once, and,
Oh. What? I don't get why the joke was placed there, but it's fun, I guess.
I feel like the proper way to start a retrospective on the going on 4-year-old Super Mario Odyssey would be to present a big spiel on Mario's history leading up to its release. After all, Super Mario Odyssey's whole thing is that it was a celebration of Mario's history throughout the years. However, the key word there is was, because we're at a point now where Super Mario Odyssey is also a part of Mario's history. Super Odyssey. For the sake of not saying it a million times over, I'm just going to be referring to Super Mario Odyssey as just Odyssey. So just so you know, I'm not talking about Assassin's Creed or Honda. Anyways, the joke machine is on low battery after that nonsense, so let me be serious. Right. Super Mario Odyssey might be my favorite game. It's just so nostalgic to me because I'm a dumb teenager, but is it deserving of such a title? I suppose that's why I'm making this video, and maybe I'll feel differently by the end of this script. So I'm not going to break down who Mario is because we all know what we're here for, but before we dive into the deep end, let's start at the beginning of Odyssey's history.
Why is his frame rate so low? This is supposed to be a 60 FPS game. Not so timeless 4 years later.
I feel like you can't really talk about Odyssey without talking about the turnover from Wii U to Switch. Now, I'm someone who actually likes the Wii U. I thought it had some great games, and I honestly don't mind the gamepad so much, but the Wii U was not the big swinging successor Nintendo needed at the time. Fumbled marketing and minimal creative application of the hardware are one thing, but allow me to explain my hot take when I say that the Wii U didn't have enough heavy-hitting games to appease casual or core fans. For example, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a game I love so much. It's so creative in its level design, and I could go on and on about the ways it succeeds as a sequel, but when it comes down to the average unaware consumer making a choice at their local Best Buy, it's just another Donkey Kong Country Returns, which they already own, compatible with their Wii U via backwards compatibility. Zelda, Kirby, Pokemon, Metroid, they all missed mainline franchise releases on the Wii U. I know Pokemon is generally a handheld-focused franchise, but gamepad compatibility could have been implemented in creative ways. At least we got Star Fox Zero.
Usually try to pause the video when I'm
Mario Kart 8
speaking,
really carried the back half of
sometimes
the
I forget. Especially during stuff like this, because this is mostly uninteresting. Perfection. Thank you. Bigger isn't always better. Also, fuck Ubisoft.
And I
don't know. I don't know, dude. They might be bringing back Rayman. So wait a bit with that sentiment.
To stress that all these games are good, but they're no 1-2 switch. We knew that a new Zelda game was in development for the Wii U, but we didn't get our hands on it until it was too late for the console. Enter the Nintendo Switch reveal trailer on October 20th, 2016.
Ugh. I remember this. This was cool.
Holy shit, this thing can play Mario? I just love this trailer. There is something so pleasant about it, and I mean it's designed that way on purpose. It feeds into gamers' base instincts of having some chill campaign cruising, being united as one, and having cool hip friends that hang out on rooftops with Mario. I'm sure most people were quickly drawn to Zelda Breath of the Wild, but the big dog critics like myself weren't on board until we saw King Boo in Mario Kart. Seriously though, the first year of the Switch was the most competitive Nintendo had been since the Super Nintendo. It was an exciting time to be a fan. There were experimental titles, bright multiplayer experiences.
Okay, but like...
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, but I'm a Nintendo fan, so I don't like JRPGs. And finally, the two big drops. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Super Mario Odyssey. Well, we wouldn't start to learn about any of these details until the Nintendo Switch presentation nearly 3 months later.
I feel like this part could have been cut down by half.
2017. In the meantime, I must have watched this 10-second clip of this mysterious new Mario game 50 plus times. I genuinely had...
I barely use the Wii U, so I can't comment on a lot of the criticisms and defense of the console. You gotta let me know what your experience with the old console. The Wii U is fine. It had a lot of great games, which has since been ported to the Switch. Except for the 2 Zelda games, for some reason, and also Xenoblade Chronicles X. All of those 3 are sorely missing. It tried some stuff with the gamepad, but they totally dropped the ball with the marketing. I mean, even I, who's really into the ecosystem of Nintendo, was kind of confused at first if there was actually a new console or just a Wii add-on. I mean, it was pretty obvious when you saw the graphics. But, yeah, the first trailer, I seem to remember that it just showed nothing. Just the gamepad, and that was it. You barely even saw the console, and even then it looks a lot like the Wii, except with rounded edges. You'll be able to play Wii U with the new PS5 Portable. Yeah, the $200 controller with the screen. That also has a battery life of 3 hours. Great. Even the Wii U gamepad has a better battery life than that.
I haven't been this excited for a game in a long time. Well, finally that presentation came, and we got to see this new Mario game in a full reveal trailer. Holy shit, this is Mario? Okay, seriously, this trailer is also great because it shows us so much without giving away everything the game had to offer. It's something I think the later showcases struggled with. The camera pans over a detailed busy city before Mario pops out of the manhole cover as Nintendo is silently saying, yeah, this is Mario now. We got to see 4 different kingdoms and Mario's classic moveset returning from 64 as the camera pans over these new giant open areas. Then we are shown ways our hat can boost our moveset with the final name drop and Cappy. Lots to love here, and I don't want to talk about every single trailer, but there was one more big showcase for E3 2017.
These trailers are pretty cool because it doesn't show that it's a Mario game at first. I like it. Also, mustachioed T-Rex. It's kind of cool.
Holy shit, that's Mario!
Oh wait, did they
the first
have
trailer
the
was
mustache?
the setup for the premise of Odyssey, then this trailer was just a fun trailer.
Bad trailer.
Jump Up Superstar plays in the background as Mario...
Honestly, I'm scared that Ubisoft will bring back Rayman in the form of a mobile game like they did with Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell. They already made a mobile Rayman game, didn't they? Didn't they? Anyways, it literally can't be worse than introducing the rabbits into... Dude, did you see the trailer for the Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, the DLC number 3? In the trailer, they actually acknowledged that the rabbit stole the spotlight from Rayman, and it's so funny. I mean, after that, they have to do something with him, right? I mean, they basically say that this guy is important. He got slighted by the rabbits. And now it's his turn to shine. I mean, come on. They have to make a new Rayman game after this. I don't care if it's 2D or 3D. Just bring him back.
Mario is messing around with the very costumes and the capture mechanic just casually revealed. Finally, we get to see the pan up to the sky with the release date casually popping up on screen. October 27. I think we were all surprised to see how soon this was, because initially the game was slated for a holiday release date. Though I do suppose Halloween counts as a holiday, it's become a tradition for me to ignore friends and grind out all night with the Plumber Brothers on Halloween since then. Sure, I could go to some dumb party, or I could steal a guy's hands and punch him in the face. So that first playthrough then on the release date, I remember running home from school and even had that stupid hat from GameStop,
or I could sit inside and play video games.
That first playthrough was magical.
Like a loser.
The possibilities seemed endless, and there were so many things to do. The captures were exciting, and the movement was fresh.
Use Rayman in the next Far Cry. Yes!
Rewarding. The kingdoms were diverse, and the bosses were surprising. There were so many moons to collect, and you always had that feeling in your stomach that the next wonderful moment was right around the corner, because it just always was. Odyssey has so many new ideas, and there's so much to wrap your head around that I don't even know where to begin organizing this retrospective in a sensical way. How about the movement?
Okay, so we're actually gonna move on to the part that's not talking about nothing.
Movement has played a big part in every Mario game. I did a video on it about a year ago, talking about the movement in 2D Mario, but I haven't talked about 3D Mario movement. 64 opened the door for how Mario could control, and it wasn't exciting because it was 3D, but because you had so many options to choose from, and they all felt natural.
This is from the
triple jump was like a little mini-game about timing and spacing, which made that actually rewarding.
Because of the UI.
The long jump is a quick boost to get across a gap that doesn't make you lose any momentum. The dive allows you to get farther, but is risky because you have the potential to slide off. What makes this...
I did see the trailer, yeah, but Ubisoft isn't what you would call a pro-consumer company. I would love to be proven wrong, but only time will tell. Yeah, they also mentioned that there was supposed to be an Easter egg for people who did some stuff in the DLC. That might have been leaked now.
For exaggerated extensions of real
life.
But
I'm kind of
afraid
to find out what it is.
You can't actually triple jump into a wall jump in real life. Trust me, I've tried. It didn't go well. The freedom of exaggerated movement is just a feeling we've always wanted to have, and that's why it feels so familiar. Sunshine and Galaxy took different approaches that were more suited to their themes and level design. Linear levels gave Galaxy the chance to showcase more ideas at a rapid pace, but the movement had to be reined in to make sure the player didn't just skip everything. What's great about Odyssey is that it does the unthinkable in extending Mario's moveset even further beyond 64. All the classic moves are back with some new ones too, like the roll and the ground pound jump. Then Cappy is thrown into the mix.
I don't know, if the level design... You could probably had 64 or even Sunshine movement in Galaxy and you wouldn't be able to skip that much.
Things start to get really crazy. Cappy essentially gives you one extra jump in the air, which can be chained into wall jumps and dives, giving the players way more options. Everyone that's played Odyssey is familiar with the jump, cap, throw, dive, bounce, cap, throw, dive, because it's such a fun combo to pull off that gives you height and distance. It's why this clip I showed you at the start was kind of unnerving. It breaks the rule set that we've all come to trust. This extended moveset sounds like it might break the game in half, which, I mean, it kinda does, but Odyssey's open-ended nature welcomes new ways of exploring levels. This is likely why the speedrunning community for this game is so big. Even more casual players could understand simple skips by using Mario's moveset in creative ways. The routing and rerouting of levels is always exciting, and nowadays speedrunners can beat Odyssey in under an hour. One of my favorite skips from the old speedruns was the Jaxi Temple skip, because it wasn't too difficult to pull off, but it looked incredibly flashy. It also skips an entire sub-area. Then there, of course, is the classic Moon skip that lets you completely bypass the entire last level. My one complaint is that even the hardest levels in the game become fairly easy once you've mastered the movement, and there aren't any other challenges that require you to use most of it anyway. More on that later, but despite this misstep,
he's right.
I'm confident
That's what I've been saying all along.
Is my favorite character to control in any video game.
There aren't really that many challenges that
Mario
fully utilizes
it's time to talk about the captures.
The movements.
Most Nintendo games are designed to focus on one mechanic, and they'll have most other ideas service that focus. In Luigi's Mansion, it's the vacuum. In Pikmin, it's the Pikmin. And in Odyssey, it's Cappy. That means Cappy doesn't just serve the movement, but lots of things scattered throughout the world can interact with Cappy in little sparks that make the game more lively. The main course of these interactions are the captures. Power-ups are no more in Odyssey, and instead Mario can capture different things in the world to use their abilities. These captures make the game more varied and interesting over time, but there is also the simple pleasure of just seeing what it would be like to play as a Goomba or something. However, a big mistake an experienced studio could make would be to think that simply adding characters to a game would stop it from becoming boring. Take a look at the game, everything. Now, to be fair, this is more of a digital modern art installation than an actual video game, but the points I make should still stand. You can be hundreds of different things in this game. Literally everything you see on screen right now is a thing you can play as. However, every object essentially controls the same. You can move around and that's it. This isn't a game mechanic, and it wouldn't service the platforming if Odyssey implemented its captures like this, but thankfully the Odyssey team did a pretty good job in creating captures that are fun and dynamic to control. This clip from earlier with the Jaxie skip can only be done with the bullet bill, which lets you fly for a short period of time before exploding. The Gushin isn't great because you can be a flying purple octopus, but it's great because once you capture it, you've unlocked new ways of traversal and new challenges to take on. Like the triple jump, the best captures are a little minigame in themselves, and their movesets will inspire you to get creative with your abilities. There are over 50 captures in the game, and that means Odyssey never stays in one idea for too long, but the game also knows when to bring the, funner captures back. This grammatical error makes a good segue into the negative aspects.
There's a lot of reuse, but he's got a point where you're not doing it back to back, and I've already harped on enough about that.
There are a lot of one-off captures that you'll use only once to get a moon, and some of these are kind of cute.
If I'm proven wrong, then I'll gladly eat my words and drink 5 gallons of told ya bullshit.
Like
yeah, I'll hold you to
some
that.
Of these could have been implemented in more creative ways. I mean, the reveal of being able to play as a T-Rex is shocking, but compared to the other more dynamic captures, you'll experience everything it has to offer pretty quickly. That being said, I caught myself in a lie there, because less than a week after Odyssey's initial release, an unintentional skip was found with the dinosaur where you can get to the boss really quickly. That kind of ties into the clever structure of how the level will introduce you to a new capture with increasingly difficult challenges up to the boss. I did a video on Odyssey's bosses before, but despite their faults, you have to appreciate how they implemented the captures you've learned to use throughout the level. Whether it's the Cascade Chain Chomps against Madame Brood, or the tanks against the Mecha Wiggler. But we gotta talk about two things. One, I kinda hate how the tank controls. I didn't really know where else to fit this in, but I just wanted to share. Anyways, two is that we've got to talk about the kingdoms. I would say I've been very kind to Odyssey so far, but the kingdoms are where the game's bigger faults arise. But let's talk about the positives first. A lot of Odyssey's kingdoms are great. They act as giant hubs for collectibles and smaller linear challenges. I also appreciate
that's the thing too. Each kingdom is kind of its own
wildly original
hub.
But I think the slight twist and popular
So the point
level
about the point King K was
the Cascade Kingdom is a dinosaur twist on a basic starting grass level, and the Wooded Kingdom is simultaneously a forest and construction site level. My favorite version of this is the Luncheon Kingdom. The twist on the food level is that it's a blocky low poly art style. That being said, there are some weird choices like having 2 water levels that I found to be too similar to be justified as separate kingdoms. I also wish some of the kingdoms went further with their concept. The Metro, Wooded, and Sand Kingdoms feel filled out, but I wish we could see a little more from the colorful jungles of the Lost Kingdom or the icy blizzards of the Snow Kingdom. I think sacrificing 1 or 2 kingdoms to make these ones more fleshed out would have been worth it. Final point here is that I wish there were more contrast in tone between these kingdoms. All of them feel the same bubbly and charming, which I understand is the deliberate tone of the game, but even the thick black lines of the Hat Kingdom are filled with overly cheery characters. The Ruined Kingdom is so refreshing the first time around because it's genuinely an exciting shift in tone as you barrel towards the end of the game. Then you realize it's just a glorified boss arena.
Of the deceased,
while the dragon is badass,
overly
it's still pretty
cheerful.
disappointing. That being said,
I
what
mean,
we do
they are
have
kind
is
of
really
spirits,
great.
aren't they?
In the Sand Kingdom, you can
Hat
mess around in the
spirits?
ruins, visit the oasis, solve puzzles with the Moai, explore the icy caverns, and run wild with the Jaxie. These open hub areas are fun to explore, but I think I like the sub-areas just as much. These are short, linear challenges behind doors or pipes. Every single one explores a unique idea, and I love the guarantee of there always being the main moon at the end of the level, and the alternate moon hidden as a secret or locked behind a harder challenge. These were almost always fun to complete, and I loved finding all the hidden moons especially. The captures fit thematically with their levels, and there were a lot of ways to get around the kingdom. You can usually find a glide on at the top of a kingdom as a useful means of traversal. When in doubt, you can always warp between checkpoints. Each kingdom has a shop where you can buy souvenirs and costumes, which is a great way to make the game feel like an adventure. These can only be bought with the limited amount of purple coins in each kingdom, and though it was kind of annoying to locate the final few when going for 100%, they were a good side to the main collectibles. The bosses in each kingdom had fun character designs, but they did fall into some of the traps that other Mario bosses do. It's not all that interesting to do a simple hit on a boss and then wait for their invulnerable attack phase to finish to repeat the process. Actually, the best bosses in the game were the Brutals. Though on the surface...
If we get a remake of Rayman 1 and or 2, what changes, big or small, do you want to see? The obvious change for Rayman 1 would be to rein in the difficulty spikes a bit. I still want it to be difficult, but I don't want to have to use a 99 lives code 2 times to finish it. Also, having to collect every cage is kind of a pain. But other than that, for 1? No, I think that would be cool. I also kind of want the pixel aesthetics to stay. I don't want a 3D like 2.5D game. That would be a major downgrade, I think. Also, for 2, as long as it's not Revolution, I think it would be fine. Maybe a bit less focus on the combat, and yeah, I think 2 is pretty good. I think it's just really good. So as long as it's not Revolution, if they were to just stick to the Dreamcast or Nintendo 64 version, that would be great. And also maybe revamp the boss battles, because they all feel a bit samey.
These guys may seem like Koopaling replacements, their fights are way better because the skilled players can skip that annoying and vulnerable attack phase, whether it's hopping on Rango when he stands up or hitting Speward's hat back. It increases the skill ceiling of these fights in a way that lets players experiment. So overall the kingdoms are solid, but there are a few changes that could be made for the next 3D Mario game. I'm gonna wedge this section in here for lack of a better place to put it. The OST of Mario Odyssey definitely has the passion and color you would expect from Mario, and although it may not be as memorable as Super Mario Galaxy's OST, there are still some classics in here.
Music.
Cascade and Seaside Kingdom have wonderfully catchy themes, and Jump Up Superstar is truly a gem. Then of course, there's the Jaxi theme.
Speaking of Rayman 2, is it true that the Dreamcast version is the best of all the Rayman 2 versions? Yeah, that or the Nintendo 64 one. The Dreamcast is...
Alright, so...
has better textures, I think. I don't remember from the top of my head.
We've talked about all the main features in Super Mario Odyssey's design, except
something
for one,
like that, yeah.
the moons. If you do a little digging, it's clear that Odyssey is the next logical step for the mainline 3D Mario games. Galaxy was linear and well received, but fans wished for some of the open-ended 64 identity to come back. Galaxy 2 and 3D World added optional bonus challenges in Secret Stars and Green Stars, but they hadn't quite reached the perfect balance. Odyssey attempted to bring back the open-ended hubs with linear challenges as a side, but I think it might have gone too far in trying to balance things. There are a few contrasting things in Odyssey that make the moons problematic. One is that there are too many of them compared to how many are actually required. In each kingdom, you only have to get a small fraction of the moons available to unlock the next kingdom. There isn't the slightest incentive to get more until the post-game. This means that each individual moon doesn't have as much value as I think it should. Stars in Mario Galaxy were precious and few and far between.
Really need
Power moons, in contrast, are sometimes way too easy to nab. Take a look at this infamous moon sitting on this easily accessible cliff right here. This can be grabbed in 10 seconds, and the worst thing is, you only need one moon after completing the story in Cascade. You barely explore Cascade Kingdom at all on the first visit. The second problem is that the reward for collecting these moons kind of doesn't make sense.
Rayman Arena
sure, you'll unlock the next level, but why do I have to do all these in order? Why can't I explore Sand, cool. Wooded, and Lake Kingdom as a level set at the same time? This worked great for the Galaxy game.
Also, pretty interesting because there aren't games like that anymore. That's surprising. At first, you would think that the PS2 version of Rayman would be the best version. No, it's because of the added focus on combat and the hub world that adds nothing except for just boring traversal. And yeah, I like the upgrade system, but I don't know. It's just too many bads that doesn't weigh up the added goods.
With levels locking in groups before a larger star barrier, and it seems to go against Odyssey's open-ended nature to block your progression in such a stilted way. Now, even my suggestion isn't perfect, but the way it is now,
I want a Rayman game in the veins of Rayman 3.
On a second playthrough, you notice how many annoying moons there are, so you always collect the same few because that's all you need. Maybe I'm a hypocrite because I understand the reasons for such limited moon requirements. They want to give the player choice, but as I've just laid out in a weird backwards way, it doesn't give the player choice at all.
It gives you a lot of choice. You don't even have to do the main path at all during most of the levels. It's the ultimate choice. It's the ultimate amount of choice. You can just go grab some moons and then move on if you don't like it. That's something. That's a trap that King K also fell into.
This is all subjective, but I'll say something similar to what I said about the kingdoms. You don't have to 100%
I think
level. Fewer but more challenging moons would have made collecting a more enjoyable experience. So what exactly am I saying? Well, maybe Super Mario Odyssey has too many moons and too many kingdoms, so they don't feel as worthwhile. Also, on some related note, all the hint art moons were slow and boring. They make you travel from one kingdom to another, which is tedious, and on my first playthrough, it confused me when I was going for 100%. But let's talk about the post-game. At 250 moons, you'll unlock the dark side of the moon, essentially just a brutal boss rush level. I actually kind of like this kingdom, not necessarily for the boss rush itself, but for all the side challenges it has. Every side room in this kingdom is a harder version of a side room in another kingdom, and these were genuinely some of my favorite challenges in the game. They were legitimately difficult at times in a no-nonsense way that the darker side just isn't. Oh yes, that's right, at 500 moons, you'll unlock the darker side of the moon. A final tough platforming challenge that brings back a lot of the characters you've met throughout your journey.
I don't remember.
I have one question for Nintendo on this level. Why can you easily skip half the level with the glide on? Like, why can I do that? Nah, I'm just kidding. I actually don't have a huge problem with this level.
But I guess I guess I'll see when I actually get to it again.
You know what? I'll just play the clip.
This is made so much better. with the skeleton costume.
Identity. This is what this retrospective is all about. Mario's identity as a mascot for gaming is what makes him so special. So looking back, I'm not sure how I feel about half of this game being a giant reference to Mario's past. At the same time, it was exciting because it had been so long since fans got a truly new Mario experience, and all these references made Odyssey feel like a celebration of Mario's history.
There's plenty of
However,
new stuff,
I wonder how this game will age as the game itself becomes a part
I
of
forgot how
Mario's
bad that looks when
Unlocking
you're
the
wet.
Mushroom Kingdom after beating the campaign
that looks
is a
really
great
bad.
reward, but I can't help but wonder how much of this...
I might be in the minority here, but I really want to see a remake of, or remaster of Tonic Trouble. Tonic Trouble, that's that Nintendo 64 game,
for Super Mario 64. And is that even such a bad thing?
I can't say I have any experience
Something to think about. So Odyssey 2, huh?
But yeah,
Will it happen? Honestly, I don't know. But at the time of this recording,
so many remakes, why not add another one, right?
EVA are working on a new Donkey Kong game. I suppose I could have made this video after this year's E3, but I didn't want a new game reveal to sway my opinions in any way. That being said, the Odyssey team did make a new Mario game after Odyssey. Let's talk about Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury was the new side game that came with the Super Mario 3D World port earlier this year. It's definitely a short experience that I 100% did in just a few hours, but it's clear that the developers are experimenting with ideas for the next mainline release. The movement from Odyssey is unfortunately gone in favor of the simplified 3D World movement, but all my other complaints about Odyssey are fixed here. There are a tight 100 cat shines, so each one feels legitimately valuable. The problem with collection requirements and progression is fixed as well, because this game exists in one big hub, with new areas opening up after a fair amount of shines are collected.
I might
incredibly fun
actually
plus
have
races
to
carry you
play
across the
that
water
game.
between levels, and this big orange dino is reminiscent of controlling one of the better captures from Odyssey. All this achieved while still keeping most of what is great about Odyssey. I like this game so much, I beat it without jumping. I really can't wait to see what's next for 3D Mario.
Because that's interesting, the way he says that. No, that's a great frame to stop. Damn, Mario about to go into some kind of hyper mode. What did you beat without jumping? The Bowser's Fury, I think. Apparently, let's see. Apparently Bowser's Fury built on the Odyssey formula in a positive way. Might have to actually check it out. Because it would be interesting to see if they actually made some if they reflected on the Odyssey gameplay and then refined it. Guess that seems like it's the entire thing with the 3D Mario platformers is refinement and refinement and refinement, and whenever they try something new, they always refine it in the next, or not always, but like maybe the core of it. Tonic Trouble also released on PC. Nitro did a great video on the game as well. I think I watched that. Speaking of Nitro Rad, we're going to watch his Odyssey review next.
When I first played Super Mario Odyssey, it was without a doubt my favorite game of all time. So how do I feel about it nearly 4 years later? Well, I still like it a lot. The fluid movement especially makes me forgive most of its shortcomings. However, I don't know how many more times I'll be able to replay Odyssey, because the second playthrough really shines a light on the imperfect structure of moon placement, rewards, and progression that affect the pacing.
That's so weird. Everyone says that. Like King K too. Like when the first time they played, they loved it, and then the second or third time, they just kind of, their opinions fell. But for me, it's like the complete opposite. I wasn't too sure about it the first time I played it, and then I'm just finding more and more reasons to love the game as I'm playing through it for the second time.
In a negative way. So as the title in this video states, I'm not sure if I'd call the game timeless. I hope that makes some sense, because Odyssey truly is
I think that's really interesting.
I have so many fun
just
memories
like on a
of exploring
personal
the
level
world for the first time that will stick with me for a long time. The sights, the sounds, the challenges, and the adventure. The game may not be timeless,
me feel like I'm missing
but it truly is an Odyssey.
Maybe I just skip the phase.
Honda, you did it again.
Yeah, that's fun. Alright, so chat, what do we think about the video? I think it was good enough. Titling it retrospective video essay and review, though, feels like setting himself up for disappointment, because it sounds like it's going to be a super deep dive into the game when it's not really. I mean, he had some ideas here and there, but I don't think he elaborated on them very much. Avril Lavigne sang that song? What song? This song? Whoa. The Odyssey song. So the Jump Up Superstar is by Kate Higgins, who I haven't heard of. But there's one more song, and I have no idea what it's called. But yeah, it does sound alike. Oh. Damn, there's a lot of... Let's see, what's it called? Jump up superstar. Damn. I really wish there was an easy way to find this out. But apparently, break free. Break free, lead the way. Still Kate Higgins. I get that making like a half an hour or hour long video takes a long time to make, but the title is a bit misleading. It's still a bit misleading. Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I mean, he had the retrospective parts, which was basically just talking about the pre-release stuff. I think that he meant that to be the retrospective. Then the video essay is talking about each mechanic and stuff, and then the review is kind of at the end. Like the last 5 minutes. Something like that. But, I don't know. When you're so used to long-ass videos with the retrospective and video essay titles, then it's kind of weird seeing a 22-minute video. Barely 23. Use them. But whatever. It's just a nitpick. I think he got his thoughts collected in a good enough manner without rambling on. He had a good point about each kingdom being their own kind of hub world, in a sense. I'd rather watch 15 minutes random cohesive points than 9 hours long video. Yeah. That's true. It's just that you don't get a lot of time to properly dive into the different ideas, right? And discuss them with yourself in a way. Still a good video though. Yeah. But like I said, he had a good point about each kingdom being their own kind of hub world, which I like. I really like the idea of that. I'm gonna like this actually. Make sure you guys do too. Give him some good words of encouragement. This guy only has 900. Has he actually done anything lately? Doesn't look like it. 2 years ago. Seems like he basically uploaded that video and then jetted. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. And then he also gave the way he mentioned Bowser's Fury building on the ideas of Odyssey. Really interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out too. It's so nice having these videos give you ideas. Hopefully I don't end up plagiarizing them by accident. But yeah, since I write down my ideas, I'm pretty sure I have a good idea of where they're coming from. So I'm going to do my best not to do that. Anyways, we're going to go on to NitroRad's video on Super Mario Odyssey. This is another long one. Like Kinkei's, a bit shorter. NitroRad is, for the people who don't know him, he's the platformer guy. He's the YouTube platformer guy. There's really good videos on platformers. Especially, and it's kind of where he got his YouTube fame. I don't really watch his videos anymore, but yeah, he's a cool dude. let's see what he has to say.
Nintendo has made one hell of a comeback. After the failure that was the Wii U, they busted out the next big thing for the company, and that was
I don't like his haircut.
Switch.
Dude, it's the Rayman haircuts. It's the best haircut there is.
It outsold the Wii.
Oh yeah, he's also very known for Rayman, by the way.
In just its first year of launch. It was a result of great marketing, innovation, a huge library of ported indie titles, and third-party support, but most importantly, there was an immensely strong lineup of first-party titles in just the first 8 months of launch. And of course, one of those games was Super Mario Odyssey, perhaps one of the most widely anticipated Mario games to date. After that E3 trailer showing off the capture mechanic, just about everybody I knew was immediately on board, and then Nintendo comes out and they're like, yeah, this one's gonna be a little closer to,
I'm gonna set up the research stuff here, which I forget to do every damn video. This is Super Mario Odyssey by Nitro Rad. And what he's saying right here, this feels, I'm not sure I would put Odyssey in next to these two games, because it's more like in the middle of everything. All of the games kind of are, because like I said earlier, the Mario games have always been a step-by-step refinement of the previous ones. Even 3D Land and World is like that. So honestly, I think this is more like a straight line, but I guess also kind of more similar to Super Mario 64. Not so much Sunshine, I think.
64 and Sunshine than the other games. Oh man, people have been itching for something more open like 64 for a long time now. I mean, it'd be 15 freaking years since the last one like that. Mario kind of fell into this more focused and linear fashion with the Galaxy games and onward, and while I do love the Galaxy games, there's nothing I wanted more than for the series to return to the sandbox style of 64 and Sunshine. There was so much untapped potential that they never explored, so much to polish in a great formula they had yet to perfect. And it kinda looked like Odyssey was gonna be the game to finally do all of that. Of course, I got Mario Odyssey the day it came out, and like, man, I couldn't even tell you how much I love this game. If you watch my top 15 games of 2017 video, you might remember me slamming this game down as number 1. I really did love it that much, but now it's time to give it a replay with a more critical eye. And with every other 3D Mario game also recently replayed and fresh in my memory, this has been a pretty interesting journey. But yeah, now I'm gonna give it a thorough, proper look, being as objective as I can. But of course, I can't promise that at some point I'm not gonna get extremely excited like I did with Galaxy 2. But yeah,
that's great.
Let's get at it.
Love it.
Super Mario Odyssey! For the first time in the series, the game cold opens to Mario and Bowser already.
Be clear, I don't love the. Ew! What the hell is that? Ugh. Look at those piranha plant flowers, or whatever they're supposed to be. That looks like someone ate a piranha plant and then puked it back up. Ugh. Do you have a Mario shirt too? Yeah, I do have a Mario shirt. I'm not wearing it though. Even today, I'm still surprised to see the Switch selling like crazy. Heck, the console is almost caught up to the PS2 sales unit, selling over 129 million. Gelatin piranha plant. Yeah, it looks... It doesn't look like gelatin, even. It just looks like soft, squishy, like fleshy. Ugh. Yeah, I think the sales success of the Switch even surprised Nintendo, to be honest. I mean, they really did do their best to have it be popular with all the games they put out. But hopefully, you know what? I'm thinking, hopefully this teaches Nintendo a lesson that the console will sell as long as you have good games. And that they maybe can try it, at least not sell the console for as much of a profit as they did with the Switch, and instead just put in a bit more power in it. The next one, I mean, like a sheep eye. Yes. Disgusting.
Mid-fight. Oh my god, Bowser's freaking menacing in this game. The character animation and sound design, oh, it really gives you a great sense of his weight. Like every blow he throws at Mario, it looks like something that could demolish a freaking building, dude. Mario gets freaking blasted into oblivion as Bowser makes off with the princess, declaring that he will finally have his wedding with her. Oh man, that shot of Mario's hat getting torn up, that is the cherry on the cake. It's the most iconic thing about Mario, and seeing it torn up to shreds after Mario's defeat, it's like, man, no way to kick a guy when he's down.
Nah, but it's
Mario
a good console.
then plummets into the Cap Kingdom, where he meets up with a little guy named Cappy, this little ghosty hat dude. He explains to Mario that Bowser tore through his homeland and kidnapped his sister to be used as a tiara for Peach during the wedding. So, with a goal in common, Cappy agrees to accompany Mario on his journey, taking shape of a brand new hat for Mario. Okay, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Cappy is a huge game changer. You can throw him kind of like a boomerang. Doing this has a lot of different purposes, though. You can attack enemies, you can break stuff, pluck posts out of the ground, you can even use him as a platform. But the most important action that comes along with Cappy, of course, is the capture mechanic. Chucking your hat on specific creatures, objects, and enemies will allow you to take control of them and use whatever abilities they come with. So, for example, you put your hat on the frog, then you're the frog, and you can jump extremely high, or maybe you'll throw your hat on a chain chomp and you can pull back and slingshot yourself and bust stuff up. It's so sick. It's a pretty gigantic part of the game, so I'll save the meat of it for later, but yeah, for now, why don't we take a look at Mario's other moves. So yeah, pretty much everything from Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine are all back. The long jump, the backflip, the side somersault, even the spin jump, though the spin jump is closer to its 3D world counterpart, and I still don't find it very useful in comparison to Sunshine's excellent.
Basically
jump,
useless.
Whatever,
the spin jump is like, I never use it.
I guess. I know I say this like every freaking video, but man, I don't think any jump will ever compare to the spin jump in Mario Sunshine. That was so good. Also, returning from 3D
the spin
World,
jump
we've got the
is
ground
literally
pound jump
the
and
best
the roll
thing about
move.
Sunshine.
I still never really found the ground pound jump that useful, but the roll is now generally used for just getting around more quickly, as it's the fastest Mario can move without any sort of vehicle. You can also roll out of a ground pound to start with a burst of speed, and that does have a handful of very practical uses. And the physics on Mario himself feel really good in this game too. The momentum you build from long jumping or running down hills or any preceding motion, it always carries on faithfully into every forthcoming jump. There's also an extra layer of visual communication to help the player to get a good feel for Mario's current speed at any given time. It's communicated by Mario extending his arms as he accelerates, which is also a nod to Mario 3.
He brings up a good point that no one, I've never heard anyone else bring up, which is the indicator for momentum. It's a really cool little touch, and it goes into the whole how this game is so detailed. But yeah, I'm gonna write that down so I don't forget it. How should I phrase this? Momentum is shown physically by how Mario moves. Like, he stretches his arms out at top speed and stuff. Yeah, something like that. 360 is king because it's the only Xbox with Dead or Alive Peach volleyball.
Doubles as both a sweet reference to an older Mario game
I wonder where your
and a way
priority
to help
lies in
create a
gaming.
great game feel. Oh man, the dive is back too. Finally,
Yeah,
it's about
indeed, you
time
can't
to have
argue
like
with that.
what, like 4 games.
Basically
without the thing?
unbeatable
Though
argument.
it does work very differently than it did in previous games, and I really didn't like it that much at first. Instead of being mapped to a dedicated button like like B like it was before, you'll now push the Y button in mid ground pound to execute it. Yeah, it is kind of weird, but it really doesn't take that long to get used to. You just push the shoulder button and the Y button together, and that'll just do it.
I kind of like the
really weird thing where they only
the animations of it, because it's like you go into a ground pound and then it looks like Mario just kind of kicks kicks his feet back, and it makes it look like he's jumping in the air, which is basically what he's doing. Like, I mean, he's going from a complete standstill to flying forwards, but I like the animation part of it.
Use 2 of the 4 face buttons though. A and B both jump, and X and Y also both do the exact same thing, and I understood why that was the case in 3D World, because they wanted that game to be playable with just the Wii Remote, which, you know, only had 2 face buttons, so they only wanted 2 face buttons to control the whole game. But the simplest controller you're going to be playing Odyssey with is the disconnected Joy-Con, but that also has 4 face buttons, so I really don't know why they didn't just map the dive to one of these. The other reason I didn't really care for the new dive at first was because instead of playing off your existing momentum, like in Sunshine or 64, it always sets you to an exact speed. Every dive is exactly the same, completely negating the windup. This was kind of baffling to me at first, but as I played on, it totally made sense. They did it this way so you can throw your hat and then dive at it with consistent results. You're not going to be undershooting it or overshooting it. If you throw your hat and dive, you're gonna...
The reason why the dive is the way it is, why it's not based on momentum like a lot of the other jumps are, is because you're supposed to throw a Cappy and land on him.
Be able to land on it. And it's a good thing they did it this way too, because this right here is one of the most important moves in this game. Throwing
Fully
Cappy
agree, though it's not that important unless you're doing very specific cheesing. Like I've probably said too many times already, you don't really have to use it for much, if any, of the moves.
Jumping off of him, you can get some serious distance out of this jump.
It's nice for
so
exploring,
much tricky mid-jump malarkey you can do with it to really get yourself around. There's some variations of it too. One of my favorites is ground pound rolling into the hat and launching off a cliff at high speed. This one was really helpful for Balloon World. There is a lot to Mario's moveset this time, and honestly, I think it's the best moveset in the entire series. On top of having almost every move from previous games, they incorporated Cappy into the moveset in a way that also changes how you will navigate the stage around you, and it opens up a million platforming possibilities. There's some additional moves you can also pull off by shaking the controller, which is fine if you're playing with 2 disconnected Joy-Con, you know, the classic Wiimote and Nunchuck style, but I personally like to play with the Pro Controller, and that can be really awkward. I don't want to have to shake the entire controller if I just want to move faster with the roll move or climb up a pole faster. Though I guess that's what an impatient person's going to be doing anyway when they just want to get up the pole already, and that probably looks pretty funny. It's mostly a problem when playing portably because, you know, you can't see what you're freaking doing when you're shaking the entire screen. These extra motion control actions
Odyssey
are never something you need to use,
play.
but there's something I'd like to use, you know, going faster when you roll, climbing poles faster. It's usually something that makes you do something faster or more efficient, like having Cappy fling to a nearby enemy after throwing him, or using a spin attack as the Cheep Cheep, or a dash move as a lava bubble. And again, there's unused buttons on the controller, so I really don't see why they couldn't have mapped these additional actions to one of these buttons. At least the simpler ones, you know, maybe not getting Cappy to go in a certain direction because that requires moving the remote in the direction you want him to go, but something simple like the lava bubble dash move that could have been a button. I don't really see any reason they couldn't have done that. So that's the controls. I think they're fantastic. It's just I wish the motion controls were a little less, I wouldn't call them intrusive, but
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know why they did it, which is because they wanted parity between everything. And especially when you assign moves to a different button, right? Like, say when you were rolling, you had to press Y. It creates a little bit of confusion, not much, but Nintendo wants the 3D games to be more of a starting point for a lot of players. So they want to make it as simple as possible. Which is pretty clear when you look at the rest of the game and the difficulty in particular. What advice would you give to anyone who wants to make YouTube videos analyzing content? Just start. I mean, it's something that you're just gonna go get better at the more you do it. Yeah, just make videos about games you're passionate about. Even if it's games you're passionate about hating, those are most often the more fun videos to make. Or ones where you have conflicting opinions about, not just games you love, because those can often be kind of difficult to produce. Just like writing them is kind of hard because you naturally come up with more jokes when you're something that you're not like. At least that's how it is for me. Other than that, it's just make some videos. Also, make sure to, when you're recording gameplay footage, make sure to keep a detailed notebook. Keep detailed notes with timestamps on where certain things happen. Because you're gonna hate scrubbing through footage for that one specific 5-second clip that you need in the editing phase. They probably did it because something, well, made them do it, like Mass Effect 3 having Connect voice commands. Yeah, I don't know. Executives, yeah, executives. Probably. I mean, Super Mario Odyssey was supposed to be kind of like a showcase for what the Switch could do. And Mario games have always been like that, right? Like, even the Sunshine, which was kind of like, you have analog shoulder buttons that you can, that have like 2 sets or settings where you can spray while running, or then if you push the button all the way in, you stop and can aim. They always tend to make the Mario game around the system instead of making a Mario game, which has its own sets of problems.
There's actions that I wish you could execute.
Usually turns out okay.
Anyway, why don't we talk about the level design now? So the levels themselves are now these big open worlds, just like Sunshine and 64. Completely gone are the short linear stages that end with a flagpole. Okay, I can't be the only one who's absolutely sick of the flagpole, right? Not to get off topic, but like, yeah, it was cool that they finally brought it back for New Super Mario Bros. Because that's like, yeah, it's like the old games, but brand new, and that was cool. But then it was also in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and then 3D Land, and then NSMB 2, then 3D World, then NSMB U. Like, I get it, you like the flagpole, but there were other things at the end of Mario stages before, like the bar thing, or the cards. You just give me anything but the flagpole, like, jeez. I don't even know why I'm complaining about this in this video. This isn't even in Odyssey, but I didn't when I made the 3D World video, so I'm gonna do it now. I don't even care. Anyway, yeah, that's all a thing of the past. No more flagpoles. Here we now have 14 open areas that you'll journey to throughout the game. You'll start in the Cap Kingdom, then you make your way to the Cascade Kingdom, and from there, you'll journey to each forthcoming stage in a linear progression, sometimes with the choice of which one you want to do first. Now, while that probably does sound a little bit linear, the levels themselves are constructed in the least linear way the series has seen so far. It's not like 64 when you're given a mission, and sometimes you can do the missions kinda out of order if you get lucky or maybe you look around. No, now you go in and the game's like, yeah, just get like 20 or 30.
I haven't tried the Kinect yet, but the general consensus, at least from what I heard so far, is that the Kinect is mostly poop.
Any of them. It doesn't matter. Go nuts.
I don't know. I haven't tried it either, but it looks fun.
Yeah,
for
so moons,
some
that's
things.
the collectible this time.
Like,
just
for
like
what
stars
it is,
or shine sprites.
Fine,
these will power
the way
up
that
your
they
ship.
tried to implement it into the core of the OS in the one, it was really dumb.
The Odyssey, allowing you to travel to the next kingdom. Unlike collectibles of past games, though, they don't boot you out of the stage every time you get one. You get it, Mario does a little jig, and you keep on going. Very similar to the jiggies in Banjo-Kazooie. You know, actually, now that I think of it, this whole game's structure kinda more closely resembles a Banjo game than it does Mario 64. So when you first land, the open world might seem a little bit intimidating at first because these levels are leaps and bounds bigger than in 64 and Sunshine. Sunshine, but when you land, there's always a brief story element that will push you in the right direction. So for example, when you land in the Sand Kingdom, everything's frozen because frickin' Bowser did some, I don't know, stupid ass malarkey to freeze the desert, so you're like, oh, okay, this has something to do with that inverted pyramid, right? And the game guides you along this subtle pathway to the objective. Then you fight a boss, figure out what Bowser's doing there, you unfreeze the desert, bada boom. That's pretty much how most of these kingdoms will start, you know, just with a little push, giving you an objective.
Problem with the Kinect is that there's no games for it. It would be like having a GameCube with Wii sensors just for Wii Sports. Yeah, useless accessory. It was probably fun for like the just dance games, right?
That you can do to get familiar with that level, and then after the boss fight, it'll plop you back down by the Odyssey, and the game's like, oh wait, we don't have enough moons, so yeah, go back out there and do whatever you want now. And what's really nice about how the game goes about doing this is that it's always done with an element of story. Bowser comes to every kingdom to take something he needs for his wedding. A ring, a dress, a cake, some flowers. His presence in every kingdom has a story reason, and it always ends up screwing up the lives of the little dudes that live there. You get to see how the inhabitants of any given place have been affected directly by Bowser's actions, and by extension, it kind of makes you think, wow, Bowser's a jerk. I'ma go kick his ass. I kind of think this is exactly how I've wanted a Mario story to be executed. The goal of Mario is simple, you know, just stop Bowser because he wants a wedding. It's juvenile and cartoony, but they play off of such a simple route in a way that constantly exists and is always affecting the characters. The story doesn't vanish when Bowser and Peach leave sight like usual. Every new kingdom you enter, every step to Bowser, the story is there.
One of the games
of all time, feels like a genuine pursuit than it does just video game levels with a story at the beginning and then story at the end, you know? Mario Sunshine was really close to doing something like this, but it all disappears like 10 shine sprites in when you go to Pinna Park. Odyssey, on the other hand, this game keeps trucking the full mile, and I really love that about this game. One thing I love about Odyssey's levels is that they're not overwhelmingly large, yet they're so densely packed with things to do. Moons are hidden so frequently, and if you really do need a nudge in the right direction, every level has a pamphlet outlining points of interest that you might want to check out. Okay, can we appreciate how smart this was to make this a travel pamphlet? Oh my god, dude, that was brilliant. Yeah, it also has a map to help you navigate and a list to keep track of which
the hints in the pamphlets aren't really that helpful.
You have and have not collected, and there's also flags you can use to fast travel to
question for everyone: has anyone ever played a bad platformer game? Psychonauts on the PS4 would be my pick. Oh really? It's bad on the PS4? A bad platformer? Yeah, probably.
If you really do need some more hints, though, you can talk to Takatu, this little parrot dude whose mouth opens way the frick too big. Oh my god. I bet this guy can eat like
finally someone who talks about the hint
hot dogs
system
at once. This guy will tell you the name of a moon, you know, kind of like the mission names in Mario 64. Just a little phrase that gives you an idea of something you can do in the open world.
I think the hint system is what brings the entire game together. Surprisingly.
Or if you do need some more help, you can also pay Toad 50 coins to mark a random moon on your map. Even if it's not a moon, you'll always find something in every nook and cranny, like hidden stashes of coins. Like, look right here. It's like you're looking up there and you're thinking, yeah, there's no way anybody can get up there. But with enough tricky-ass speedrun Tony Hawk malarkey, you can actually get up there. And there's coins up here. Like,
do not say that about Zelda 2. I haven't played Bubsy, but I wouldn't be surprised to see anyone pick that. Yeah, I haven't played Bubsy either. The worst platformer I've ever played has to be Pac-Man. Not Pac-Man World, anything, just the arcade Pac-Man. It's like no platforming at all. Worst platformer I've ever played.
They knew you could get up here? This really seems like a developer oversight, but they know. They always know. Like, talk about leaving no stone unturned, for real, dude.
Yeah, they always know. They always know. I'm glad that Nitro
And the best
Rad
part is that
hasn't
coins
disappointed
actually
yet.
do something in this game. And I'm not talking about those annoying 100 coin stars either. There's nothing of the sort in Odyssey. Instead, coins are now used as actual currency, and you'll use them to buy costumes and collectibles for Mario. Instead of losing a life, you'll now lose a chunk of coins every time you die. So, yeah, the traditional life system, it's donezo. And as iconic as it was, you know, sometimes you really do have to let traditions die to let a series advance. When you die, you now lose something actually valuable to you as a penalty, instead of just making you re-enter the stage if you die too many times.
I'm pretty sure they have lives.
It was always something that's been kind of outdated
Bros.
for a long time now, and I think it's a wonderful thing that
I
they moved on from it in a very smart way that still has consequences. We've also got purple coins, which are unique to each kingdom, and you'll have to collect these ones to purchase the kingdom-specific costumes. Honestly, this is one of the most fun parts of the game, getting to dress up Mario any way you want. Almost every costume is from something too, like Chef Mario from Yoshi's Cookie, Artist Mario from Mario Paint, Scientist Mario from that one Super Game Boy commercial, Cowboy Mario from Mario Party 2, and oh my god, the list goes on and on. They've added some new ones in an update too, and ever since I've been sporting the Shades and Shine Sprite shirt, I just really like Mario Sunshine, okay? Now, in your efforts to collect moons, you'll use the capture ability to take control of different enemies. This is perhaps the single most brilliant thing the series has ever introduced. It changes the way you play any given segment in such a streamlined fashion. The game no longer has any need for power-ups because you'll just grab a nearby enemy to handle the situation instead. You might grab a Cheep Cheep to swim around easier, or an uproot to climb up to higher areas, or a Fire Bro to light some torches. There's an amazing balance between practical obstacle course navigation and puzzle solving. Looking around you and thinking, what can I control here? What abilities can I gain? It has infinite potential for both sides of the spectrum. For example, we've got this guy making some soup, and he's like, yeah, the pot's not hot. So you're like, okay, how can I heat up this soup? Okay, why don't we control this lava bubble and jump in? Boom, puzzle solved. Or maybe it's like, how do I get up there? Oh, I'm gonna grab a Goomba, I'm gonna jump on another Goomba, and I'm gonna make a big stack of Goombas, and I'm gonna be able to reach that moon up there. A huge part of what makes this mechanic so fully realized is that they did not simply limit themselves to existing Mario enemies. They didn't just go through a list of every Mario bad guy and think which ones could have fun abilities. No, instead, they thought of what mechanics could change up the gameplay in fun and interesting ways, and then designed enemies based on that, instead of vice versa. That is why we have such an abundance of brand new Mario enemies to possess. Uproots, for example, the leg stretching mechanic is so interesting, and it adds so much to the game, but no previously existing Mario enemy could probably do something like that, so they made up a new one. The same thing with Sherms to fire cannonballs and Gushins to fly around and propel water. My favorite has gotta be Pokio, these little bird dudes that stab their beak into a surface and fling themselves around. It's so cool. One of the smartest things about this is that it limits where you can take these characters, but without making it feel restricted. They don't give you a straight up time limit on fireballs like Mario Galaxy did. You can capture a Fire Bro and you can use them as long as you like. However, you're only going to be able to get as far as you can as a Fire Bro. He can't wall jump like Mario.
No doubt that the position mechanic definitely helps Odyssey stand out as its own unique 3D Super Mario game. Yeah.
Right, so you're not going to be able to bring him wherever you want. This way, the game can give you new powers
one of the
with
better
total freedom
of the
while
game.
Keeping them in a controlled setting without the player feeling
Although I don't think I would have liked this mechanic in a, say, a 2D game. Or in a game like 64 or Sunshine, because that it would take away from the platforming.
They've taken
but
abilities
in Odyssey,
away
it's
from
really
Mario.
well implemented.
There's also inanimate objects in the environment you can capture briefly just for transportation. Poles for flinging yourself, power lines for quick travel. With the levels being large open worlds, they made sure to have plenty of ways to get around. And it's staggering how much they cranked out of this one mechanic to achieve all of that, on top of Mario's already impressive moveset. Now, some people might find a moveset like this to be wasted on simply exploring a world around you instead of navigating a well-designed obstacle course.
Kirby always possessed people, but now that Mario does, it's poggers.
If you're in that crowd, you still won't be disappointed. While the core of the game are these big, open, explorable levels, and
also Kirby doesn't possess people. He literally eats them for their sustenance, and then takes their abilities by digesting the flesh of his enemies and making it his own.
Also serve as hub
which is
worlds
much
to
more
smaller
hardcore
linear
than
challenges.
whatever
like these
baby
are straight
shit
up Mario
is
Galaxy
doing.
levels. Just find a pipe or a red door and it's like, okay, obstacle course time. And these, like Galaxy's levels, are a freaking blast. They're well designed, challenging, they're utterly fantastic. They experiment with a variety of gimmicks that wouldn't really work in an open world, or perhaps they make you take control of an enemy and use them in a situation that can't really stem from open-ended game design, but something more controlled and linear. You really get the best of both worlds here. This is a 64 style game, but they sneak in the very best of Galaxy as well in this absolute perfect blend. There's always 2 moons to get in all of these levels, one for getting to the end, and one more hidden in there somewhere else. It might be a tad troublesome to have left the area then not know if there's anything left to do there,
further
but
refinement of
Cappy's
the 3D
there
genre.
to tell you. If you come back and you're done with the zone, he'll be like, nah, I think there's nothing left to do here, but if there's still purple coins or a moon left there, he'll let you know right away. I absolutely love Cappy, dude. I really gotta say, I think he is the best companion character we've ever seen accompany Mario in a main series title.
Shit, he will?
I never found Luma
Wait,
that
hang on. I didn't know that.
He is the best companion character right away. I do here, but if there's still purple coins or a moon left there,
oh, that's probably during the post game. I'm gonna have to write that down. I mean, I know that there are usually 2 moons in every challenge room, so I make a point of getting them both before I leave. So I'm not sure if this is something that only happens in the post game. There might, because you have to revisit and stuff. Let's see. Cappy can make you aware of moons or purple coins in challenge rooms so that you are missing.
Let you know right away. I absolutely love Cappy, dude. I really gotta say, I think he is the best companion character we've ever seen accompany Mario in a main series title. I never found Luma that interesting. You know, I even forget the guy exists since you barely even see the dude. I thought Flood was alright, though. He had some dialogue, did some cool stuff, but Cappy is...
Even if you're just finishing the game, Super Mario Odyssey still felt a bit too easy, at least through my experience. Yeah, a bit too easy. There are certain reasons for that. Luma is a guy. It's a little guy, right? But yeah, there are certain reasons for why Odyssey felt a bit too easy. I'll probably go a lot into that in the video, but I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna word it yet, but we'll see. Anyways, I've been drinking too much water. I need to take a small little break, and I'm gonna play another ad. I need those 2 cents, dude. Honestly, it's just an experiment. I know I'm playing it up to me being greedy, but it's honestly just an experiment to see if it actually matters or not. I watched the whole 15 seconds because I love your vids. I love you. Let's start a what's it called? Let's start a ad stream where everyone just watches the ads. I can just sit and click.
Is the first one to really feel involved with the story and to be genuinely helpful when it comes to informing the player. And it's very non-intrusive what he has to say.
Also, it's interesting to hear that they actually send out ads.
In place to let you know what he's spitting at you. It simply displays a text on screen as you play with an adorable little sound quip.
I appreciate it.
Man, between
that was like what was supposed to be 2 cents. Now has become 4.
And visual appeal and informativeness and how he lets you capture enemies. Cappy is easily the greatest Mario companion ever. And I'm not saying that because he's possessed me. That's fiction. That can't happen. He's so sweet and thoughtful too, always keeping an eye out for when Mario decides to let the sun burn his eyes.
We've basically ruined our economy to the point where we're literally having to buy bread with wheelbarrows of money.
I really love how they incorporate the captured enemies into the boss fights too. They all feel truly unique, instead of the same, rinse and repeat 3-hit motions they've always had before. I thought Galaxy had some weak boss fights. Sunshine's were a little more interesting and challenging with figuring out what to do and executing it, the Manta Ray fight especially, but Odyssey I think is the first one to have rather strong boss fights. For the first time in the series, I feel like each phase is genuinely more challenging than the last. Most levels will have a main boss fight, but there's also the recurring cast of mini-bosses called the Brutals. These pompous jerk rabbit dudes were hired by Bowser to beat up Mario, and these fights are good, but they do repeat many times throughout the game, which some people might grow a little bit tired of. One of the best levels in the entire game has got to be New Donk City in the Metro Kingdom. It's not even that big an area, but the verticality created by the tall buildings adds a whole new level to looking for moons. The entire stage is built with moving Mario in mind. You can bounce off the cars, off of the people walking down the street, you can climb the signs, swing off poles. Buildings are often placed close enough to wall jump all the way up to the top. It's a city-sized jungle gym, and I think it's one of the most satisfying stages to navigate in the entire series. There's been some complaints of an uncanniness to the realistic human characters, and I don't know, it never really bothered me that much. I mean, like, realistic rabbits and cartoony rabbits exist in the same game, so I don't really see why realistic and cartoony humans can also exist. I always saw it as an exaggeration of something already here to emphasize which characters are important. Like Mario and Pauline are humans, but they look distinct and cartoony because they're the ones that need to stick out in the crowd.
Mario at least is from
I don't know, that's kind of how I always saw it. I know that's just one argument in a sea of many others, so, take that as you will. It's a very subjective thing, but I will admit that I don't really think the human models look that great. That aside, though, the presentation overall is absolutely outstanding. Of course, being the newest Mario game, it's the best we've seen yet. The lighting effects look absolutely beautiful, and seeing all of these cute characters like Dory get such an amazing HD facelift, it was really a treat. And the music, oh my god, dude, it is one of the most varied Mario soundtracks ever. Every kingdom has its own distinct style. Sometimes it's quiet and ambient. Other times it's loud and proud. Odyssey is where Mario's finally found a nice little niche between orchestra and jazz, but thanks to all of the other kinds of music in here, they're now able to use them more sparingly. This means every time you hear that orchestra kick in or that brass light up, it's so much more powerful. Of course, I'm talking about one of...
That's the one thing that Odyssey doesn't give enough credit, in my opinion, having different and unique boss fights. Rarely did it ever feel like deja vu in any of Odyssey's boss fights, if at all. Yeah, well, the main bosses, the Brutals, kind of repeats, but you can cheese them pretty easily, or at least you kind of learn it as you're fighting them, which is interesting. If you're paying attention, you can easily see that. You can jump on him now. You don't have to do the whole phase thing. But then there are repeats at the end of the game, but then again, those are supposed to be harder, so I don't remember how it was or how they changed them then, but I like the bosses.
One of
They're
the
not
game's
bad.
strongest moments, the new Donk City Festival. It's like they finally remembered that Donkey Kong was actually the first Mario game and decided to give it the proper homage it deserves. Oh yeah, I should probably mention these 2D segments. Galaxy had 2D segments as well, but here, they're straight up 8-bit areas that play just like the original Super Mario Bros. It's really cool. They even carry over the costumes you're wearing into the sprite, and that level of detail is so freaking sick. And you know what's a gimmick if they don't do something actually interesting with it, right? We've got some gravity stuff similar to Galaxy, but more impressively, enemies
One
can
piece
leave the
female
8-bit
character
zone and
model.
become 3D.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so cool!
Well, I
aside
don't know.
from the Metro Kingdom, I think one of the other
much
strongest
too
areas is the
small
Luncheon
breasts.
Kingdom. I love the way this place looks.
And also
it's low
her
poly,
midline
but
is
it isn't
too
retro.
wide.
There's so many vibrant and dreamy
I mean, have
colors.
you seen the
The
One
way
Piece
this place
women?
is stylized is something else. There's a lot of navigating large areas of
Or at
lava
least
as
the
lava
ones who
bubbles
are
and
supposed to
plowing
be
through
pretty.
cheese as Hammer Bros throwing frying pans. I love how they wear chef
Or
hats in
Nami
this level.
1, 2,
Yeah, that's
3,
kinda
4,
like the
5,
whole
6,
theme
7,
in this
as I like
game
to
is
call them.
hats. Enemies you can capture will often wear a hat themed after the level. Seeing Goombas with pirate hats, that was pretty good. It was also pretty cool to finally see what Hammer Bros look like without their helmets on. They got some little spiky hair going on. It's a good look for the little dudes. Alright, so I really want to talk about the endgame stuff, but of course, first we gotta talk about the ending. So I'm gonna put a spoiler warning right here, skip right here if you don't
Do we
want to
really
see the
even wanna
ending. And if you
watch
haven't seen the
this?
ending and have not played the game yet and want to play the game, I recommend you skip this part because this game's ending is really freaking good. So please
It
don't
is
spoil
good.
it for yourself. But
Well,
otherwise,
I kind of know what happens.
so Bowser's like, I'm gonna have my wedding
Yeah,
on the
those
moon,
heavy
and we're like,
spoilers,
oh,
yeah.
I guess
This
we're going
was,
to the moon. I guess.
this was
So
released
this
5
is
years
the final
ago.
stretch of the game. There's plenty of moons here,
around the
but you
time
won't be
when
looking for them for now.
Odyssey
It looks like a
actually
straight shot
was
to the
out,
final area, but it's actually
or
a
launched.
full-fledged area you can
So,
fully
yeah,
explore
it's-
and play once you beat the game. All right, so the final challenge is one of those
understandable.
Galaxy-style linear
March.
stages, and it's got charging chucks, dude. Yes, we got charging chucks.
Still better than Rift Apart boss fights, which felt like only having 6 boss fights and each of them getting repeats in just one playthrough, not including New Game Plus. Yeah,
Oh
some
my
games
god,
are
dude,
kinda
this
heavy
is
on
so
that.
sick. Okay, I love charging chucks. They are my favorite Mario enemy ever, and you get to be one in this game, and that freaking owns. Alright, so once you're through the final challenge, you enter the building, and this part's so good. Mario crashes the freaking wedding, smashing through the door, showing up in a snazzy suit and hat. Everyone's dressed so formally. It's like, this is like the most dramatically climactic thing that's ever happened with Mario. But at the same time, it's juvenile, it's silly, it's charming and heartwarming. It's just so good.
Hey,
It's
Super
so
64
good.
callback.
The final fight with Bowser is really solid too. Dodging the attacks is challenging, and they even sneak in some unexpected counterattacks at the peak of the battle. I think this is my favorite final battle with Bowser, but
There's one thing I gotta keep in mind when I'm writing this video, is that what's supposed to be challenging in this game, in these games, is just not challenging at all to me. So, in that sense, I gotta try to look at it more objectively. But like, I'm so used to the platforming and stuff now that most of it feels trivial. We're gonna have to take a good hard look at each of the challenges and see if they're
the best is yet to come. So the
actually
fight
hard.
ends with Mario and Bowser doing so much damage that they fall into the very crust of the moon. Lava's all around them, pouring in from the walls. Bowser's unconscious, and the place is falling apart. It really looks like dire straits for Mario and Peach. And here it is, the single most satisfying moment in video game history. Just like that, it hits you. A realization. No.
He's super
freaking
right though.
way.
I love this. By the way, how much do you bench? Probably not a lot. Let me think. It's been a while since I've been at the gym. 85, I think, kilos. It's not a lot. Now that I think about it, there isn't a single possessed enemy that I dislike or hate, at least based on what I played so far. And yeah, they're mostly pretty good. The Goomba is a bit underwhelming. I mean, all you do is run and jump, but they use it to good effect. 85 is a lot.
Oh my god!
I don't know, I
and
don't
at
think
the
so.
peak of it all, during the final segment,
That's one time though, keep in mind.
Rock song with the vocalist of Jump Up Superstar kicks in, and it's a Mario-themed love song. The final kicker to this amazing moment in this game. And once you're finally out, we get the final cutscene. Bowser plops out, Mario sticks the landing, and Peach floats down gracefully. Oh my god, dude, the tension gets so high.
I mean,
here.
I think
Cappy
my
and
200
Tiara look
kilo
at Mario.
deadlift
They're all dressed for the occasion.
Than that.
It's gonna happen. Mario's gonna propose to Peach. This is how Mario Odyssey ends. Psych! Bowser jumps in and proposes, then Mario squeezes in and proposes too, and Peach is like, what are you doing, guys, stop, and she turns them both down.
Maybe
and
the
here,
real
right here it is,
nerd
this shot right here,
all along.
Mario...
You did 3 ads videos. 3? Really? I only pressed it, like, I pressed it once. 2 times.
And Bowser sharing a moment. This right here is where it all makes sense. 32 years of
not
Mario and Bowser's
close.
rivalry all makes sense.
I'm too fond
they
of
both
candy
share
for...
a common goal. They
or
both
I'm,
want the
I'm way too
princess.
fond of candy
Bowser's
to be
willing
shredded.
to kidnap her for it, and Mario's willing to sacrifice
Like
life
sugar
and
is
limb
my
for
one
it. But in
weakness.
the end, neither of them can achieve it. They're a lot more similar than they think, and this sudden, beautiful inconsistency in tone hammers in the idea that in the end, these are just cartoon characters. Their goals, their ambitions, why they do the things they do. It doesn't matter. It's all just a vessel for Mario to go on an adventure and to take you along. And this one beautiful moment that's as touching as it is comedic and silly makes that all clear in a microsecond. And it was during the credits that I really started to think about the lyrics to that song. And this one beautiful moment
Bowser
that's
could
as
literally
touching
kill
as it is
Mario
comedic
by
and silly
punching
makes
his
that
head
all
off
clear
right
in a
here. Why didn't he do that? Is he stupid?
Microsecond. And it was during the credits that I really started to think about the lyrics to that song, the one that played when you was...
Speaking of Mario, any plans to play the new upcoming Mario game? Yeah, Wonder. Yeah, I'm actually excited for it, which is, I think, the first time I've been excited for a 2D Mario game ever.
Escape from Honeyloon Ridge, and I realized it's not a love song about
like,
Mario.
Once I learned that you could turn off the voice of that dumb little flower, I was like, yes, this is the 2D Mario game I'm going to love.
Peach, or Bowser and Peach, or any two fictional characters. It's a love song about the player and the game. Just think about the lyrics. Tripping through 2 dimensions. Up on the moon, we'll twirl and swoon. Just lead the way, I'll follow you. It's describing the player taking Mario on journeys of past and present. You lead the way and Mario follows. He's talking to you, dude. A miracle in 3 dimensions. Follow the brick path straight to my heart and we'll grab the flag together. The fireworks are gonna start. It's a love song about your experiences with these games, and as someone who spent his entire life playing and loving Mario games, this song, like, I don't know, dude, it hit me in an emotional way that I don't think anything's hit me before. It's describing a relationship that's so personal instead of just being about 2 fish.
It sounds too much like Daigo and Shinada fight theme in Yakuza 5 is a love song. They love each other. Sadly, I don't know what you're referencing.
It's a feeling that, like,
but yeah,
damn,
sure.
Man, maybe it's just the pretentious film student me talking right now, but I seriously think this is just extremely smart. And you know, it probably sounds a little bit dumb to say that there's some meaningful connection between a person and a video game, but you know, it's all about the experiences these games bring you, and to recognize and celebrate and romanticize that in this wonderful, overwhelmingly amazing finale. It's just really good, okay? It's just good. I just like Mario a lot, okay? Leave me alone. I just really like Mario, okay? There's a connection here that does not exist as prominently in most other video games. Mario is the epitome of joy, the very definition of fun. He's so happy and excited to be able to entertain his players. For him, it's a privilege.
There is no excuse,
bro. That's why he thanks you at the end of every single Mario game.
Thank you so much.
I don't really have an interest in it, but I can.
Thank you so much for playing my game. Thank you so much for playing my game.
Mario platform game. Finally.
No,
yeah.
Except Sunshine. Apparently, he was too busy having
I'm never gonna play as Daisy though. I'm
one.
actually kind of pissed they didn't bring back the best girl. But what can you do? I guess I'll just. No, I won't play as a Yoshi either because that's like easy mode. I guess I'll just have to play as Mario.
So by this point, the credits have rolled, the game has ended, and you're back on your feet by the Odyssey. You probably have like 200, 300 moons by this point. You want to know how many are in the game? 800 something. You've barely even scratched the surface. After beating Bowser, they repopulate every single kingdom with tons of new moons, even brand new galaxy-style courses that you can access through these moon rock pipes. There's also, oh yeah, okay, we also got some gameplay spoilers, and I know that might sound a little bit silly, but you unlock some seriously cool stuff after you beat the game, and if you haven't seen it yet somehow, it's a pretty hefty surprise, so skip right here if you don't want to see it. Otherwise, I'll just, you unlock the Mushroom Kingdom. It's the castle grounds elaborated into an entire level. They've even got Yoshi on top of the castle. You can't ride him, but
I don't know,
you can capture him, which is even better. There's even a retro Mario 64 costume you can get here, which is incredibly badass. You can even go to the courtyard from Mario 64, and it's all blocky and low res. The text on the statue isn't even legible, and the trees are low quality in 2D.
I love that touch.
And the best part is when
they just kind of... They upgrade everything in the courtyard, like, it's so clear. You can see the pixel edges, and then they still won't show you what's actually on the plaque. That's like the ultimate troll.
You get a moon here, they look like stars, and it
At
goes...
least real, guys.
Man, Nintendo's dropping those nostalgia bombs hard this time. Every other Mario game's just like, hey, check out this 8-bit Mario sprite. Pretty cool, huh? And I've been growing a little tired of that, so it's incredible to see them go the extra mile and do something like this. So the new level and more moons to collect aside, there's of course a reason why you're going to want to be getting more moons. If you collect 500, you get that final tough as nails bonus stage the series has come to be known for now. And it's a long one, testing a lot of different abilities, having you capture plenty of different kinds of enemies and using their skills to get past these difficult challenges. I don't think it's as hard as 3D World's final stage, but it's definitely harder to outlast. It's really fun though. It's got to be my favorite one without a doubt, and it has the most satisfying conclusion. A long climb up the final tower as you and Cappy reminisce on your long, amazing journey. It might seem overwhelming with the sheer amount of moons you need to 100% the game, but I don't think that's much of a problem because you only need a fraction of them to get that final stage. Anything you get afterwards is just a small reward just to acknowledge that you did in fact get them all, which doesn't much matter. Well, I guess you do kinda unlock a harder version of the final boss, but if you ask me, the final level at 500 moons is all that's really worth playing to, unless you're a die-hard Mario fan or a completionist, or if you're 9 and you have no other Switch games. With the sheer amount of stuff to do, the amount of content that's in this game, Mario Odyssey easily has the best endgame content in the entire series, and that big final unlockable challenge stage, it is one of, if not the best one in the whole series, and getting all of those freshly placed moves to unlock it is an amazing time. And the game also doesn't encourage you to go nuts and get like every single one. It only requires 500 of like the 800. And I think that was a really good move. You can get them all if you want, but like I said, you really don't get that much for it, so it's entirely up to you on whether you do it or not, with no mega big deal.
You also have to give credit to Odyssey for having a mostly stable 60 FPS from beginning to end. Heck, frame rate drops in general felt extremely rare. Yeah, I've only encountered one frame rate drop throughout this entire playthrough I'm on, and it's when I was jumping out of water in the Lakeside Kingdom. And that happened like once. It has something to do with the alpha effects, because the Switch apparently doesn't handle those very well, and you can see that when you climb trees in Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. When you have that partially see-through alpha effect on the leaves, the frame rate just tanks.
Reward, it's just something you can do if you feel like, instead of something you feel like you have to do, and I think that's the best way to handle this sort of thing. Now, I guess this review has been kinda pretty overwhelmingly positive so far, and the truth is it's because this is a very difficult game to criticize. Even after replaying it with a very critical eye, I had a very hard time finding things I didn't really like about this game. But of course, that doesn't mean there's nothing I think the game could do better. With such a gargantuan amount of moons to collect in this game, they do repeat some objectives across multiple kingdoms, some of which I do think are fine, like the Koopa freerunning, for example. You're racing through different areas each time, so I don't think it's a big...
residents of the other kingdoms will start to travel around once you're done, or once you finish the main part of the game. I have to remember that, because that's a big part of the level of detail that this game has. Traveling around 2 other kingdoms in the post game.
Deal, but I don't like how you have to do each one twice to get both moons. Other repeating goals include the Goomba stacks, where you need to get a Goomba to a female Goomba, which again is fine because it's presented in different areas, so it plays out differently.
This is like the exact opposite of Joseph Anderson's points. Just he's looking at the Goomba thing, and then he's going, these two are the same, therefore it's repetitive.
The Koopa trace
While
walking.
Chad Nitrorad here is actually giving the context of how you get the boons.
Challenge, which is a nice little thing. I liked it, but again, I don't like how it makes you do it twice to get both moons. There's one where you'll have to bring an NPC, an enemy you've captured, and sometimes it's cool because it requires trying to get an enemy outside of the zone that you thought you could bring him, so it's like, oh dang, I can get this guy over here, but other times it's as easy as just plopping a cheap in a fishbowl, and it's not too exciting. Okay, you know, anything I can think of to criticize in this game are things that are just mildly repetitive, but aren't really a big deal because they're really brief and optional if you're not going for 100%. However, there is one part of the game that made me very upset, and yeah, it's the sheep thing. You gotta herd the sheep into a pen using Cappy to knock them around. It's not really that bad when you first see it in the Sand Kingdom, but there's a part when you do it later in the game when there's just way too many sheep, and they're all really far from the pen, and it takes ages to get them there. It's incredibly tedious, and it sticks out like a sore thumb in this game full of fluid and smooth gameplay.
I don't know, it's like
I'm kind of surprised they didn't notice this during playtesting and decided to either remove or at least somewhat streamline it. The sheep thing also returns for one of those galaxy levels, and oh my god, it took me way too many tries. Not because it's fair and challenging, but because it's annoying and dumb. And that is my only criticism of Mario Odyssey.
That mission did
no, but really,
annoying,
you know, there's some other stuff too, like the motion controls, which I mentioned way earlier in this video, and then also the some minor repetition as well, but those are really just nitpicks. It's just the sheep thing is the only thing I think they could have done way better in this game.
I guess.
But yeah, this is otherwise a very difficult game to criticize. Like, it's really that.
Especially since it's so far removed from the Sand Kingdom one. If you do that the first time you're there. So when you eventually get to the Mushroom Kingdom, it's like it's so far. It's been so long since you've done anything like that. It's fine.
Well made and polished, but honestly, I think the biggest thing I could really say about this game in regards to that is that despite all of the brilliant things this game really does, it really only feels like it's scratching the surface. Like, I feel like there's a million more things I could do with this formula. I feel like there's infinitely more potential they could crank out of this capture mechanic. I mean, think of all the Mario enemies we didn't get to see. Bloopers, Boos, Shy Guys, Koopas, Spikes, Thwomps, Toxboxes, Rexes, Resners, Bandits, Pokies. I think there's so much left to do
I think
here,
a lot of those
makes me pray.
Like, especially the bloopers seems like a weird thing because, well, they would basically just work exactly as those purple things that you use to shoot water to fly. That's basically a blooper, just with an
that they'll pull a Galaxy and make a Mario Odyssey 2, or at least some DLC or something.
Use water
There's
to
so
propel
many
yourself
kingdoms
forward.
I'd love to see return, like the Bean Bing
float.
Kingdom, Isle Delfino. Imagine going back to Delfino Plaza, how much they could revamp that map into one giant area with no loading screens, and tons of redesigned obstacles for you to climb while you look for moons. I actually had this idea for combining captures, like if you could combine any two Mario enemies. Imagine the potential for puzzles, like there's a fence underwater, so you have to combine a cheap sheep with a Boo to phase through it, or maybe there's a dog you gotta get rid of by throwing a bone, so you're like, okay, what throws things? Hammer Bros, right? I'll combine that with a Dry Bones to get a Hammer Bones, throw a bone and the dog goes to chase it. I don't know, stuff like that. You know, just an idea I had. There you go. You can have that one, Nintendo.
Normal Dry Bones.
On Nitrorad, go nuts with it. But yeah, Odyssey is such an amazing game, man. Like, and I know I said that Galaxy 2 might be the best Mario game, and I made that video on it, but after replaying every single one and really criticizing them all and getting down to the nitty-gritty of what I think I could do better and what I think I do well, Honestly, I think Mario Odyssey is objectively the best one. At least I think so. I know I can't tell you what to think, but I can at least tell you what I think.
And make it
think
objective.
Mario Odyssey
that makes
is
it
the best
subjective.
Mario. This game introduces some amazing new ideas, and it excels at how it implements them. It polishes Mario 64's brilliant structure into something nearly perfect, something that can fit the playstyle of so many different kinds of people, and they balance the open world levels with galaxy-style levels sprinkled in there as well. This game is a culmination of everything the series has learned by experimenting and trying so many different things in means of gameplay, structure, and narrative too, really. I think as it stands, Odyssey is the best Mario game, but I think some people aren't going to agree. You know, you might like Galaxy 1 or 2 better, depending on your tastes, but I think most people are going to at least agree this is one of the best Mario games. You know, maybe a second best or a third best. It's gonna be up there for most people, especially people that really like 64. I think Sunshine is still my favorite, though. I just really love that game's world, and I love how it controls, but I think it's mostly just because I grew up with it. So Odyssey is either a close second or it might be my actual favorite. I probably need like a year or two to look back and then decide, but yeah. So yeah, I guess that concludes the Super Mario Marathon. Thank you guys so much for watching me talk about Mario for like 3 months in a row. It's like my favorite series ever, you know. I've at least never been so consistently invested in a game series for literally my entire life, you know. Mario Bros 3 was the first game I ever played, so like as long as I've known what video games were, I've been a fan of Mario. And honestly, I might have liked Mario longer than I've liked anything, like, because anything else I can think of that I did at 3, like...
The thing about context is how much of it you are going to talk about in a video. Because if you're going to talk about every detail in a game, that could take hours of explanations. Yeah, I mean, the most relevant context, I guess, is what you would expect.
Playing with Play-Doh and baby toys, I definitely don't do anymore. Stuff I still do, like riding my bike, I would have learned at like 7 or 8. I've liked Mario longer than I've liked anything. Wow, that's nuts. That's bonkers, dude. But yeah, we're all done the 3D games. I might do the 2D game.
I'm sad because Halo fans look like this guy nowadays, except we don't have current good games. What do you mean he looks like Nitro Rad?
Sometime, but you know, I'm sure you guys want me to move on to other stuff, and I don't want to get sick of my favorite series. And there's a lot of other stuff I want to cover, like the Pac-Man World games, a lot of N64 games. So yeah, definitely more platformers to come. But never forget that when it comes to platformers, Nordic Mario is and will always be.
Oh, nostalgic about the past. Yeah, right.
So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon with some new awesome
Yeah,
stuff.
Poor Halo fans have been basically thrown under the bus lately. Alright, that was Nitro Rad's video. Probably the best video we watched so far, I think. He had some good points. I got a lot out of it. Maybe not from just the things he was talking about, but just also things that was going on in the background. Yeah, this was a good watch. I like his opinions a lot. Not just because they align a bit with my own, but also because it gives you a lot to think about. Nitro Rad is one of those people you can look to for reliably good content. Mostly a really great video, yeah. I think so too. You don't like it? It's weird that I haven't already liked it. I prefer Super Rad. It goes on a tangent about Leninist Marxism because of Liberty Prime. No, Nitro Rad is definitely the best Rad. No contest. Anyways, that was the last video I had planned for the day, so unless anyone has another Odyssey video that we should watch, then I think I'm gonna end the stream there. You know what, I'm almost tempted to just pull another ad break just for the trolling. We do a little bit of trolling here. But I won't. I think I have my data points for this stream. I'll probably walk up to the store and buy me some cookies. I definitely had fun chatting with everyone here so far. Yeah, same here, dude. It's always fun when people show up to streams. And it's also very cozy that there's only a couple of people chatting too, in a way. Happy dinner, bruh. And it's not dinner, it's dessert without dinner. Basically. Yeah, so anyways, I think that's it for today's stream. I don't know if I'm unsure if this is going to be a stream next week. Probably not. But like in 2 weeks or whatever, look for me. I'll be here. Anyways, thank you guys. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And yeah, see you later. Bye.